Chapter 106. Murong Yu looked at the red-clothed woman and said with a smile. Hua Wei glared fiercely at Murong Yu and coldly snorted. But she didn't say anything. Obviously, she tacitly agreed with Murong Yu's words. So, Qingxian Peak has been established for 3 months, and besides you, no one else has joined. Why is this? Murong Yu looked at Zhao Jiqing. Zhao Jiqing smiled embarrassedly. Murong Yu obviously didn't want Zhao Jiqing and the others to answer, because he continued, Jiqing, you are one of the holy maidens. To be able to be conferred the title of Holy Maiden in the revolving reflection stage, the sect obviously sees your future potential. This is very obvious. But you are now only a revolving reflection stage cultivator. Even if your future potential is limitless, so what? Even if you are valued by the sect, so what? But your strength is too weak. Plus, you don't have the qualifications to attract others to join Qingxian Peak. In other words, besides potential, Qingxian Peak has nothing. We are all disciples of the Hidden Fairy Valley, but why would we join another peak and become their branch? Other than having an expert to rely on, they also have a mountain that provides them with a large amount of resources. Unless you get a large amount of pills, magic weapons and the like, this will attract a large number of disciples to join Qingxian Peak. Otherwise, in another 10 years, there won't be many people joining Qingxian Peak. Of course, if you reach the spirit-severing stage or the body fusion stage within 10 years, I'm afraid there will be many disciples joining Qingxian Peak. Zhao Jiqing nodded her head, and the rest of the crowd felt the same way. However, the red-clothed Hua Wei looked at Murong Yu with disdain and said, Murong Yu, you've spouted so much nonsense, but we already knew. Don't you have a method? If that's all you want to say, then don't continue. Murong Yu smiled and did not bother to argue with Hua Wei. He continued, Qingxian Peak has a much denser qi of heaven and earth compared to the Hidden Fairy Valley. As long as there is a master overseeing this place or a large amount of resources, this situation can be changed. Could it be that you can provide these 3 things? Hua Wei looked at Murong Yu and sneered. Of course not. Just as Hua Wei was about to retort, Murong Yu continued, I am unable to provide any experts. As for increasing the concentration of heaven and earth yuan qi in Qingxian Peak, I only need to set up some spirit-gathering formations here. Of course, I don't have the ability to do that either. However, Jiqing, you can ask your master, Elder Huangfu. I'm sure she'll be happy to help. As for me, I can provide you with a lot of resources, magic treasures and even essence-returning pills. It turned out that Murong Yu wanted to provide these things to Zhao Jiqing. In fact, when he entered the main hall and heard Zhao Jiqing and the others discussing this matter, he already had a plan in his mind. After he woke up, he began to implement this plan. Now, he was an itinerant cultivator who did not belong to any sect. The resources in the Hichu Luoshu world were enough to cultivate a large group of people. And where could he cultivate these people? Murong Yu chose Qingxian Peak. Qingxian Peak was Zhao Jiqing's power. Once this power was established, it would naturally be beneficial to Murong Yu. Moreover, if Zhao Jiqing became the leader of the Hidden Fairy Valley one day, it would be even more beneficial to Murong Yu. However, if she relied on herself, it would be extremely difficult for Zhao Jiqing to become the leader of the Hidden Fairy Valley. To become the leader, in addition to the support of some old fellows in the sect, she would also need to have her own power. The stronger Qingxian Peak was, the more advantageous it would be for Zhao Jiqing to become the leader. Therefore, rather than saying that Murong Yu wanted to cultivate Qingxian Peak, it was more accurate to say that he wanted to help Zhao Jiqing become the leader. Even if Zhao Jiqing was unable to succeed in the end, with Qingxian Peak as a powerful force, Murong Yu would be able to walk freely in the cultivation world. However, it would take a very long time for Qingxian Peak to become powerful enough to be used by Murong Yu. However, everything had to start from scratch. You provide resources? Hearing Murong Yu's words, Hua Wei immediately laughed coldly. Although Morong Yu was in the limelight recently, she did not think that Morong Yu would have many resources. After all, he was only an itinerant cultivator in the revolving reflection stage. Hua Wei was not the only one who thought so. Even the others looked at Morong Yu suspiciously. However, only Zhao Jiqing's eyes shone with a strange light. As intelligent as she was, she already vaguely understood Morong Yu's intentions. However, although she had vaguely guessed Morong Yu's thoughts, she absolutely agreed. After all, it was her wish to make Qing Xian peak powerful. It would only be beneficial to her and not detrimental. Even if this matter did not benefit her at all, as long as it was something Morong Yu wanted to do, she would unconditionally support it. Although I don't have many resources, it is enough for the early stages. Morong Yu looked at the reserves of recovery pills in Hichu Luoshu again. Although he had burned a lot of them, they burned like a bucket of water in a vast ocean. He did not see any shortage of recovery pills at all. Moreover, besides recovery pills, there were also vital elemental pills and other elixirs. Everyone looked at Morong Yu suspiciously. They did not believe him at all. At this moment, without waiting for Hua Wei to speak, Morong Yu flipped his hand and 10 storage bags appeared in his hand. Then, he waved his hand and the storage bags flew towards everyone. There are 1 million recovery pills in each storage bag. Consider it my gift to you. 1 million recovery pills. Everyone was shocked. Hua Wei took the storage bags with a look of disdain. Just as she was about to make sarcastic remarks, her divine consciousness had already probed into the storage bags. At this moment, she saw a small mountain of recovery pills piled up in the storage bags. The spiritual energy of the elixirs filled the entire storage bags. At this moment, Hua Wei opened her small mouth wide and swallowed the words of ridicule that she was about to spit out of her mouth to mock Morong Yu. Then, she exclaimed, "There really are 1 million recovery pills. Morong Yu, how do you have so many elixirs?" Hua Wei was shocked and looked at Morong Yu in horror. At this moment, she was convinced that the man in front of her was not bragging. He really did have the resources. 1 million. Out of the 13 people here, only Morong Yu had casually tossed out 13 million origin rejuvenation pills. That was a huge amount of wealth. The girls looked at the storage bags in their hands, then looked at Morong Yu and then at Zhao Jiqing. While they were shocked, they were also at a loss. 1 million recovery pills. At this moment, they felt that the storage bags in their hands were as heavy as a mountain. They did not even think that, if it were not for Morong Yu, would they have so many elixirs in their lifetime of cultivation? Senior sister? The girls looked at Zhao Jiqing and did not know if they should accept it. Zhao Jiqing smiled and said, "Since Brother Morong is giving it to you, just accept it. Don't be polite with him." "Thank you, Brother Morong." The girls thanked Morong Yu and then hurriedly put the storage bags into their own storage bags. However, Morong Yu seemed to think that the girls weren't shocked enough as he made a grabbing motion in the air. In the next moment, 13 flying swords with powerful auras appeared in the void in front of him. High-grade magic weapons. The girls cried out in surprise. Their eyes lit up as they looked at the high-grade flying swords. Morong Yu smiled and waved his hand. Suddenly, the flying swords flew into the air. "One for each of you. I'll give it to you." At this moment, the girls did not stand on ceremony with Morong Yu. After each of them chose a flying sword, they happily went to claim it as their master. "Boy, you're so generous." The value of a high-grade magic artifact flying sword is probably no less than 1 million origin recovery pills. At this time, Hichu in the Hichu Luoshu world said with a smile, "Boy, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to them and want to take them into your harem?" Morong Yu rolled his eyes. "I'm not a stud horse. I don't have so much energy to deal with these girls. This is called investment, do you understand?" It wasn't that Morong Yu was generous enough to give out 1 million medicinal pills and a high-grade flying sword to everyone he met. Even a big sect would not be able to support this. The reason why Morong Yu did this was nothing more than investment. He wanted to tell others that as long as they joined Qingxian Peak, they would have a large number of pills and flying swords. How is it? Are you happy to receive my gift? Morong Yu looked at the girls with a smile. The girls nodded excitedly and chattered excitedly. Receiving a high-grade flying sword. I'm afraid that even the core disciples of the Hidden Fairy Valley don't receive such treatment. Looking at you guys, why don't you go outside and try out the new flying sword? Sister Zhao, I'm going to try out the new flying sword now. Huawei excitedly greeted Zhao Jiqing and then rushed outside like a ray of light. Following which, the other girls also left the main hall and went outside to try out the new flying sword. For a moment, the outside was filled with sword qi and laughter. It was very lively. As for Morong Yu, he merely smiled at Zhao Jiqing and said, "Prepare to accept a disciple. In less than 3 days, there will be a large number of disciples wanting to join Qingxian Peak." The girls excitedly tried out their swords on Qingxian Peak. For a moment, the Qingxian Peak was filled with sword qi and sword light. It was very lively. Originally, Qingxian Peak was just an ordinary peak in the Hidden Fairy Valley. However, after Qingxian Peak was bestowed with a new saintess, this place gradually became lively. However, although Zhao Jiqing was the saintess, her actual strength was too low and she did not have many resources. As a result, no one wanted to join Qingxian Peak. However, just because no one wanted to join Qingxian Peak did not mean that no one was paying attention to it. In fact, in these 3 months, there were many disciples secretly observing Qingxian Peak. On this day, the originally quiet Qingxian Peak was filled with cheers and laughter. Immediately, the nearby disciples who were observing Qingxian Peak looked over in surprise. When they saw this, they were immediately shocked. Chapter 107. Above Qingxian Peak, streaks of sword radiance flew across the sky. It was dazzling and powerful. In fact, what shocked them was not how powerful the girls were. In fact, the girls of Qingxian Peak had different levels of strength. There were foundation establishment, revolving reflection, and fusion stages. The most powerful one was only heart-stirring stage. These stages were not worth mentioning at all. However, at this moment, the powerful aura coming from Qingxian Peak was very powerful. High-grade flying sword magic artifact. Someone exclaimed when they saw the flying swords in the girls' hands. However, this was not the only thing that shocked them. Not only one of them had a high-grade magic artifact, but all 13 of them had a high-grade magic artifact. Since when did the Hidden Fairy Valley become so powerful? Each of them had a high-grade magic artifact? While everyone was shocked, they looked at their own flying swords. Not to mention high-grade magic artifacts, they were not even mid-grade magic artifact. They were pitiful low-grade magic artifact. In fact, in the cultivation world, which high-grade magic artifact was not worth more than 1,000,000 yuan. In countless sects, most of the cultivators used low-grade magic artifact. Even the core disciples of the top 10 sects did not have a high-grade magic artifact. Generally speaking, only true disciples could have a high-grade magic artifact, and not everyone had one. Huawei and the other girls had high-grade flying swords in their hands. Clearly, this was not the style of the Hidden Fairy Valley, but the treatment of Qingxian Peak. While everyone was shocked, the girls on Qingxian Peak seemed to be tired of playing. Some of them seemed to have used up a lot of their inner qi. As a result, these people sat down cross-legged on the ground, took out large handfuls of medicinal pills, and directly threw them into their mouth. They ate pills as if they were eating beans. Those are essence recovery pills. Someone with sharp eyes immediately saw the pills in the girl's hands and exclaimed, "Essence recovery pills. They actually have so many essence recovery pills." Seeing the girls swallow the essence recovery pills one by one, the cultivators near Qingxian Peak swallowed their saliva with difficulty, their faces full of shock. One must know that a foundation establishment cultivator could only receive 5 essence recovery pills a month from the sect. Some of the girls on Qingxian Peak even swallowed more than 10 essence recovery pills at once. It was too extravagant. Envy, jealousy, and hatred. However, things were far more complicated than that. Some of the women on Qingxian Peak seemed to have regained their strength. However, he was still sitting cross-legged on the ground, seemingly cultivating. Time continued to pass, and the essence recovery pills were swallowed by these cultivating women, one after another. Boom, boom, boom. As the pills were swallowed one after another, more and more yuan qi accumulated in the bodies of these women. After a long while, a series of loud sounds came from these women. Waves of auras that were much more powerful than before were emitted from their bodies. Their realms had actually been broken through by the spiritual energy contained in their pills. During this process, the people near Qingxian Peak did some calculations. In the process of their cultivation, some of them had even swallowed more than 100 pills, or even more. As low-level cultivators of the hidden fairy valley, it was impossible for them to have so many vitality recovery pills. Because it was impossible. But now they were casually eating pills. In other words, they didn't care about these pills at all. Why didn't he care? It was most likely because they had a large number of pills on them. However, where did these pills come from? Obviously, it had something to do with Zhao Jiqing. One by one, the disciples quietly left the vicinity of Qingxian Peak. Not long after, a piece of news about Qingxian Peak spread throughout the hidden fairy valley. Within Qingxian Peak, everyone had a high-grade magic weapon and was eating pills as if they were fried beans. Qingxian Peak had a large number of resources and magic weapons. In an instant, this piece of news quickly spread throughout the hidden fairy valley. In the beginning, many people didn't believe it. However, the women on Qingxian Peak seemed to have intentionally or unintentionally revealed that they were selling magic weapons, flying swords, and pills. Moreover, the people on Qingxian Peak seemed to have improved their realms. Thus, they had no choice but to believe it. At this time, the news of Qingxian Peak accepting disciples also spread. Immediately, many disciples of the hidden fairy valley came to Qingxian Peak. Cultivation and aptitude aren't important. What's important is loyalty and loyalty. Your aptitude can be very poor, but we have elixirs. We can use elixirs to raise your cultivation. However, I don't want all the disciples of Qingxian Peak to join us because of our resources. Even if we have endless pills that can raise a person from a low-grade cultivator to a high-grade cultivator. However, if they aren't loyal to Qingxian Peak, what do we need them for? Once we run out of resources, these people will leave Qingxian Peak immediately. Therefore, character is the most important thing when recruiting disciples. What we want is quality, not quantity. In the main hall of Qingxian Peak, Murong Yu already treated himself as the master of this place and spoke to the 15 people in front of him. Yes, there were 15 of them. Apart from the original 13 women, there were 2 more people, Jiang Lu and Chang Lu. In any case, the 2 of them hadn't joined any faction, so Murong Yu had pulled them over to Qingxian Peak. Hearing Murong Yu's words, everyone nodded secretly. Even Huawei, who had always been on bad terms with Murong Yu, didn't speak up at this time. Murong Yu's resource offensive was beginning to bear fruit. If Huawei was still the same after receiving Murong Yu's high-grade flying sword and 1,000,000 pills, then Murong Yu could only admit that his plan to win people's hearts had failed. In the early stages, resources are limited. We have to ensure that everyone who joins Qingxian Peak has resources available. Therefore, we have to control the number. In addition to considering the problem of resources, another reason is that we have to nurture the core disciples of Qingxian Peak. Qingxian Peak will become stronger and stronger, but it's not enough with just the few of you. Therefore, we need to recruit more elites, and when you're strong enough, you can control them. Moreover, I suggest that when we recruit disciples this time, it's best that their cultivation level is not higher than the heartbeat stage. Yes, considering Jiqing, try to recruit female disciples in the early stages. I've finished speaking. What do you think? After Murong finished speaking, he sat down on the chair. Then, after Zhao Jiqing and the others discussed some details, they began to confirm the recruitment of disciples. Murong naturally didn't worry about these. Therefore, in the following period of time, he would either go to the Hichu Luoshu world to cultivate or wander around Qingxian Peak. Zhao Jiqing and the others were busy with the recruitment of disciples, and no one cared about Murong. Murong was happy and carefree, and he used a few days to go to almost every corner of Qingxian Peak. This was because the recruitment of disciples had to be based on their character and so on. Therefore, it took a full half a month's time for Qingxian Peak to recruit 100 disciples. Moreover, these 100 people were all women. Their cultivation level ranged from the foundation establishment stage to the fusion stage. No one was above the heartbeat stage. This was because if a disciple was too strong, Zhao Jiqing and the others would be in a situation where they couldn't control them. On this day, Qingxian Peak stopped recruiting disciples after recruiting 100 disciples. This action caused many to sigh in pity and curse their bad luck. On the other hand, the male cultivators all sighed. Fortunately, this was only the first time Qingxian Peak was recruiting disciples. If they wanted to join Qingxian Peak, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. Rumble. At this moment, an earth-shattering explosion sounded from Qingxian Peak. In an instant, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Waves of murderous intent were emitted from Qingxian Peak, shooting straight into the sky. Everyone turned pale with fright and looked in the direction of Qingxian Peak in shock. At this moment, Qingxian Peak, whose peak could be seen from afar, was now shrouded in a layer of faint white mist. Waves of murderous intent were hidden in the white mist, and it was enough to make one flinch. Rumble. Suddenly, a stone steel fell from the sky. A huge stone steel the size of a small mountain fell from Qingxian Peak. Then, it plunged into the ground below Qingxian Peak. A few blood-red words were erected on the ground along with the huge stone steel. There is an immortal sealing formation inside. Halt or you will die. The bright red words appeared extremely glaring and sinister under the illumination of the sun. This. The people of Qingxian Peak looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. Disciples of Qingxian Peak, don't panic. I will teach you how to enter and exit the immortal jutting formation. Murong Yu's voice sounded. Then, a figure slowly walked down from Qingxian Peak and stopped in front of the crowd. Seeing Murong Yu, the people of Qingxian Peak calmed down. This guy was always so mysterious, and the girls trusted him very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please follow me. Everyone else, please leave as well. Murong Yu lightly smiled, then turned around and walked towards Qingxian Peak. The people of Qingxian Peak hurriedly followed, looking around inside the formation like curious babies. However, what would they think if they knew that this was the same formation that had killed Fei Mingzhong of the Yuan Su sect? The immortal jutting formation was a killing formation, and it was extremely powerful. Murong Yu's current strength was not enough to unleash the full power of the immortal jutting formation. However, when setting up the immortal jutting formation, Murong Yu used hundreds of magic weapon-grade flying swords and magic weapons, as well as dozens of spirit weapon-grade flying swords. With so many flying swords around Qingxian Peak, the entire Qingxian Peak was enveloped in the immortal jutting formation. If the immortal jutting formation was fully activated, even a tribulation passing stage cultivator would not be able to break through this formation. Moreover, during this process, Murong Yu, with the help of Hichu, set up a few spirit-absorbing formations within Qingxian Peak. The spirit-absorbing formations were formations that absorbed the essence of heaven and earth. With the existence of these formations, the immortal jutting formation could operate on its own and would never collapse due to a lack of spirit qi. Moreover, with these spirit-absorbing formations, the essence of heaven and earth in Qingxian Peak would become denser and denser. Chapter 108. Setting up the array took Murong Yu half a month. In the main hall of Qingxian Peak, more than 10 people gathered together. Here, Murong Yu told them the method of entering and exiting the immortal jutting array. He instructed them to teach the method to the newly recruited 100 disciples so that they could enter and exit the immortal jutting array. However, there was a problem at this time. Huawei asked, "The immortal jutting array sounds very powerful. However, once the number of disciples in Qingxian Peak increases, the method of entering and exiting the array will be Li. When that happens, won't the array be useless?" Hearing this, the others nodded. They all had the same thought. Murong Yu smiled and said, "After all, this is the hidden fairy valley. The immortal jutting array will not be activated normally. Even if you accidentally enter the array, you will only be trapped inside. Because of this, even if you know the method of entering and exiting the array, it will be useless. Because once the array is activated, the method of entering and exiting will immediately lose its effectiveness. When that happens, no one will be able to enter and exit the array freely. Of course, I have already taught Jiqing the method of activating the array. When you are strong enough, you can gradually master the immortal jutting array." "Is this array really useful?" a female disciple asked. When they were passing through the array, they really did not feel anything special about it. Other than some clouds and faint killing intent on his body, everything else was the same as usual. Moreover, the most peculiar thing about this array was that it was impossible to see inside Qingxian Peak from the outside. Even spiritual will could not penetrate it. However, inside the array, it was easy to see what was happening outside. Outside ancient Spring City, I used this array to kill Yuan Su Sek's form synthesis stage elder. "Do you think this array is useful?" Murong Yu said with a smile. Shock. Everyone was shocked as they looked at each other with a horrified expression on their faces. At this time, they finally realized that they had just walked through the gates of hell. If Murong Yu had activated the array at that time, they would have been blown to smithereens. In the following period of time, Murong Yu very generously took out 100 mid-grade magic tool-grade flying swords and 1 million yuan recovery pills and gave them to Huawei and the others. This was the treatment that new disciples received. There were no more high-grade flying swords, but each of them received a mid-grade flying sword and 10,000 yuan recovery pills. This made these people overjoyed at the turn of events. At the same time, Murong Yu said, "Use the energy recovery pill as much as you want. Don't be afraid of wasting it. As long as it's within your tolerance, you can directly increase your cultivation level. No matter how many origin-returning pills you want, I can provide them all. Furthermore, as long as your strength reaches the level of a core disciple of the Hidden Fairy Valley, you may even have a spiritual artifact flying sword or magical artifact." After hearing Murong Yu's words, the people on Qingxian Peak almost went crazy. He wouldn't have to worry about the essence recovery pill. He wouldn't have to worry about anything. As long as one reaches the silent spirit stage, there is a possibility of obtaining a spiritual weapon. This treatment made them go crazy. Of course, Murong Yu did not spare any expense in grooming them, but it was not without conditions. He needed loyalty. They needed to be loyal to him and Zhao Jiqing. In fact, these days, Murong Yu's performance was a bit overwhelming. He had vaguely become the master of Qingxian Peak. Of course, Zhao Jiqing did not mind. Qingxian Peak was about 10 miles in radius. In the following period of time, the people on Qingxian Peak cultivated crazily and also began to build Qingxian Peak. Finally, under their efforts, Qingxian Peak became more and more lively. Furthermore, within a month, there were disciples who broke through their cultivation level. The most delightful thing was that Zhao Jiqing's cultivation had already entered the fusion stage. Furthermore, she did not use the accumulation of pills. Instead, she relied on her own cultivation. Her cultivation speed was really shocking and made people speechless. It even far surpassed Morong Yu's speed. Of course, Morong Yu only let out a sigh. The more powerful Zhao Jiqing was, the happier Morong Yu was. Moreover, although Morong Yu was now only in the middle stage of the revolving reflection stage, he could almost sweep away all the heart-stirring stage cultivators. Therefore, sometimes, cultivation level did not mean anything to Morong Yu. On this day, Morong Yu leisurely returned to the main peak from Qingxian Peak. Along the way, he met many Qingxian Peak disciples. These female disciples very affectionately called him Big Brother Morong. These people all knew the relationship between Morong Yu and Zhao Jiqing. Moreover, everything they were using now was provided by this seemingly harmless but infamous person. Morong Yu was very happy with how everyone addressed him. Therefore, he smiled and nodded in response. Jiqing, Morong Yu stepped into the main peak's main hall and called out, only to find that there was a stranger in the main hall. In fact, it was not a stranger. Morong Yu had seen this person before at the Immortal Cultivation Assembly. Morong Yu greets Elder Huangfu. Since you have something to discuss, I won't disturb you. Morong Yu said as he was about to leave the main hall. Morong Yu, this time I came because of you. Huangfu Ranshui looked at Morong Yu and said with a smile. She seemed to have a good impression of this Morong Yu. Elder Huangfu came to find me? What's the matter? Morong Yu asked with a shocked expression, but he did not leave. Huangfu Ranshui gestured for Morong Yu to sit down, then looked at Morong Yu and asked with a smile. Morong Yu, you have been in the Hidden Fairy Valley for 3 months, right? How do you feel about the Hidden Fairy Valley? Morong Yu looked at Huangfu Ranshui, but he was a little suspicious in his heart. He did not know what she meant. But he still replied, it's okay. Well, it is indeed worthy of being one of the top 10 sections. It occupies a vast area and has a strong army. I think the Hidden Fairy Valley definitely has the ability to become the leader of the top 10 sections. Hearing Morong Yu's answer, Elder Huangfu was stunned for a moment, then a smile appeared on her face and she continued, in the past 3 months, Qingxian Peak has been gradually improving with your help. All the disciples' cultivation has increased. You have spared no effort in helping us, it really makes me feel ashamed. Morong Yu smiled a little shyly. It's okay, I am helping Jiqing. Although she has Elder Huangfu to take care of her, I am still worried about her, so I can only do my best to make her stronger, that is all. You are more or less unjustified like this. Morong Yu, I have a suggestion, but I don't know if I should say it. Huangfu Ranshui looked at Morong Yu and smiled. Morong Yu smiled slightly. Elder Huangfu, you don't want me to join the Hidden Fairy Valley, do you? If that is the case, I will have to think about it carefully. Huangfu Ranshui was stunned. Her purpose today was to ask Morong Yu to join the Hidden Fairy Valley. After all, no matter in which aspect, Morong Yu was definitely a talent. Don't worry, our Hidden Fairy Valley will not be like Zhushanzong. If you can join the Hidden Fairy Valley, we will definitely not interfere with any of your secrets. Morong Yu pondered for a moment. In fact, he had already thought about joining the Hidden Fairy Valley many times. However, he was worried that the Hidden Fairy Valley would be like Zhushanzong, coveting his things. After all, once bitten, twice shy. Morong Yu did not want to be plotted against again and again. Moreover, although joining a sect would give him a strong backing, there were still many restrictions. However, there were also many restrictions. Thus, it was better to be a loose cultivator and live a carefree life. I am sorry, Elder Huangfu. I will need some time to think about this. Morong Yu did not immediately refuse. Huangfu Ranshui did not force him. In the following time, everyone chatted for a while before leaving. Elder Huangfu. Just as Huangfu Ranshui was about to leave Qingxian Peak, Morong Yu followed her. Have you thought about it? Morong Yu shook his head and said, I want to know, is it possible for Jiqing to become the sect leader of the Hidden Fairy Valley? It is possible, but without a certain level of strength, it is impossible to become the sect leader. Murong Yu nodded. As long as it was possible, it was fine. As for strength? With Zhao Jiqing's immortal spirit body, he believed that her strength would increase very quickly. As for Qing Xian Peak, with his strong support, what was there to be afraid of? After Huang Fu Ran Shui left, Murong Yu stood alone on the peak of the mountain and fell into deep thought. After thinking for a long time, Murong Yu finally made a decision. It is time to leave. The world of cultivation was vast. Murong Yu's path was ahead of him, and not just stuck on Qing Xian Peak. In the next few days, Murong Yu transferred some magic treasures and pills to Zhao Jiqing. Then, he left Qing Xian Peak alone and left the hidden fairy valley. The reason why he decided to leave Qing Xian Peak now was because Qing Xian Peak was on the right track. With the support of Murong Yu's pills and magic treasures, Zhao Jiqing could naturally control the future development of Qing Xian Peak. Therefore, he was not too worried about leaving just like that. After all, Zhao Jiqing had her own path to walk. Murong Yu did not want to interfere too much with her. During this process, he did not look for Huang Fu Ran Shui. He said that he would think about it, but he did not say when he would give Huang Fu Ran Shui an answer. Outside the hidden fairy valley, Han Tao, who had already received the news, led a group of disciples to hide in a valley, waiting for Murong Yu's arrival. After leaving the hidden fairy valley, Murong Yu rode on his long spear and flew into the distance. Boom! Just as Murong Yu was about 10 miles away from the hidden fairy valley, Murong Yu was flying at high speed. Then, a huge hand suddenly reached out from the 9 heavens. It shattered the void and shattered the heavens. It directly grabbed Murong Yu's head and face. Murong Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. A cold, murderous intent flashed across his eyes. He had a cold smile on his face and his eyes were indifferent. However, he did not look surprised. Obviously, he knew that he would encounter something like this. You are courting death. Murong Yu snorted coldly. 60 extremely condensed shadows of Pan Qi circled above his head. Then, he punched out. Chapter 109. Boom. The power of 60 heavenly chains was earth-shattering and could even shatter the sky. However, the moment the energy hit the giant hand, the gigantic hand that was descending fiercely slapped down. In an instant, Murong Yu's power was shattered to pieces. However, the large hand didn't seem to be hindered in the slightest as it continued to reach for Murong Yu with incomparable speed. Murong Yu furrowed his brows. At this critical juncture, he immediately rushed to the ground from the sky. Then, he stepped on the troop formula and turned into a stream of light, flying into the distance at high speed. Boom! After an earth-shattering sound, the giant hand slammed down and a terrifying power exploded. A mountain peak was directly shattered. Everything within a radius of a few miles was smashed into pieces. However, Murong Yu's speed was very terrifying. At the last moment, he rushed out and the power of the giant hand did not affect him. However, at this moment, Murong Yu had stopped in his tracks, because in front of him, there were already more than 10 cultivators wearing the hidden fairy valley's disciple robe. The leader was Han Tao, a true disciple of the hidden fairy valley and a cultivator in the spirit-severing stage. However, at this moment, his face was very ugly. It was he who attacked just now. He was a severed soul expert, yet he couldn't even touch the sleeves of Murong Yu, a revolving reflection cultivator. This made him feel extremely embarrassed and humiliated. Murong Yu stopped and looked angrily at Han Tao and the others. Although he had already guessed that Han Tao would attack him, he was still very angry when he saw the other party. Han Tao, you want to kill me? I didn't expect a true disciple of the hidden fairy valley to be so despicable and shameless. Murong Yu looked at the other party and said angrily, I'm shameless. Han Tao sneered. If you hadn't been in Qing Xian Peak all the time, I would have killed you. Why would I wait until now? However, I also feel lucky. If I had killed you that day, I wouldn't have known that you had so many magic treasures and pills." As he spoke, Han Tao's face was full of greed. The other disciples of the hidden fairy valley also looked at Murong Yu with shining eyes. There was no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. Murong Yu's actions in the past few months on Qingxian Peak had already spread. In the eyes of some people, Murong Yu had long since become a moving treasure trove with a large amount of magic treasures and elixirs. As long as he could capture Murong Yu, he'd become rich overnight and possess an endless supply of magical treasures and elixirs. Hearing this, Murong Yu was a little surprised. Initially, he thought that Han Tao was looking for him because of his relationship with Su Rue a few months ago, but he didn't expect that the other party was actually after his treasures and resources. "I have plenty of magic treasures and pills. However, you bunch of trash want to take them from me? You don't have the ability." Murong Yu sneered. Among the 10 great sects, the Hidden Fairy Valley was not only the head of the 10 great sects, but they also had the best reputation. However, no matter where it was, there would always be a black sheep. For example, a disciple like Han Tao, and a direct disciple at that. They seemed to be very experienced, and it seemed like they had done this many times. "Is that so?" Han Tao sneered and waved his hand. "Take him down. Remember, don't kill him." Hearing this, more than 10 disciples of the Hidden Fairy Valley sneered and charged at Murong Yu. Murong Yu squinted his eyes, and a fierce killing intent burst out from his eyes. His killing intent spread throughout the forest. "Those who have designs on me must die. You are no exception." Murong Yu sneered and suddenly shouted, "Myriad sword arts! Xiao! Xiao! Xiao!" Just as Murong Yu shouted, more than 10 flying swords burst out from his body. Hundreds of millions of sword rays splashed out and attacked indiscriminately in all directions. In an instant, the sword chi was everywhere. Countless sword shadows shattered everything and killed everything. Hundreds of millions of sword rays tore out, and the sky was filled with densely packed sword rays. Hundreds of millions of sword rays filled every inch of space. In the first moment, more than half of the disciples who charged at Murong Yu were crushed into pieces before they could react. The rest of the disciples reacted quickly and brought out their flying swords. They danced in the air to resist the sword chi that filled the sky. Clang! 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 The sound of metal clashing could be heard. At this moment, Murong Yu made his move. He used the army formula and moved at an unparalleled speed. His body was like a phantom, and he turned into a black flowing light and moved quickly. The black phoenix spear transformed into a black divine dragon, and it was constantly emitting light in Murong Yu's hand. The spear pierced out like the roar of a hidden dragon, and it stretched out its 5 claws. A heart-stirring stage cultivator did not even have time to react. He was blasted into a cloud of blood mist by Murong Yu. Then, Murong Yu's body swayed and disappeared from the spot. The long spear in his hand shattered the void and pierced through hundreds of millions of time and space. It directly pierced through a disciple of the Hidden Fairy Valley. He lifted up the disciple of the Hidden Fairy Valley with a single strike. The long spear vibrated. A terrifying power burst out and crushed this disciple. "Die!" Murong Yu roared and swung the long spear. He smashed a disciple of the Hidden Fairy Valley into pieces. Bang! 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 In a short period of time, Murong Yu exploded with extreme strength. In the blink of an eye, he killed all the disciples of the Hidden Fairy Valley. In just a few breaths of time, Murong Yu killed all of them. His speed was fast, and his attacks were ruthless. He was truly merciless. Hai Tao stared blankly at the scene in front of him. At this moment, he still had not recovered from the shock of Murong Yu killing all these people so quickly. He did not expect Murong Yu's strength to be so terrifying. Although he did not bring many people this time, most of them were fusion stage cultivators. These people were all disciples under him. He was only an ordinary direct disciple. He was not a saint, nor was he the head disciple. He also did not have any great contributions to the hidden fairy valley. Therefore, he did not have his own mountain. Originally, there were not many people under him. Moreover, he had just become a direct disciple not long ago. In addition, he did not have many resources on hand. These fusion stage cultivators were already considered elite disciples under him. Of course, he still had heart-stirring stage cultivators like Su Rue, but there were only a limited number of them. Today, the majority of his elite disciples had been killed by Morong Yu in just a few breaths of time. This had shocked him and caused him to feel an unbearable heartache. If news of this were to spread, and all the people under him were killed, who would dare to rely on him in the future? You're courting death. I'm going to kill you. Han Tao finally reacted. He stretched out his hand and smashed it down on Morong Yu, covering the sky and the sun. At this moment, Hai Tao was extremely furious. This time, he had increased his strength by 100%. However, he did not lose his rationality due to his anger. He knew that as long as he killed Morong Yu and took his resources, there would be a large number of disciples under him. Therefore, although he attacked in anger, he was secretly cautious. A severed spirit expert? I killed quite a few of them that day. Morong Yu sneered. With a flash of his body, he disappeared from where he stood. Boom! The huge hand smashed down and smashed everything in a radius of several kilometers. However, Morong Yu disappeared into thin air. Hai Tao, I, Morong Yu, will remember today's matter. In the future, when I succeed in my cultivation, I will settle the score with you. Morong Yu's voice came from afar. Following that, Brian saw Morong Yu's figure move like a bolt of lightning, leaping across the ground and disappearing from sight. Morong Yu? He's the one who betrayed Zushenzong and killed several of Zushenzong's transcending tribulation stage elders? Hai Tao was stunned. He stood in place with a blank expression. He actually forgot to chase after Morong Yu. In fact, it was not that he forgot. Instead, after learning about Morong Yu's identity, he hesitated and was frightened. Morong Yu was a ruthless person who could even kill a transcending tribulation stage expert. I heard that Morong Yu has a powerful golden skeleton. Just now, he didn't release the golden skeleton. Thinking of this, Hai Tao's back was suddenly soaked with cold sweat. However, Hai Tao had some doubts. He doubted Morong Yu's identity. However, at this time, he really did not dare to chase after Morong Yu. If it was not Morong Yu, then it would be fine. But what if it was Morong Yu? If he just rushed up like this, wouldn't he be courting death? Damn it, why didn't I know that he was Morong Yu? Hai Tao roared unwillingly. In the past few months, although Morong Yu's name had spread throughout the hidden fairy valley, he had become a moving treasure trove. However, they only knew about Morong, but did not know about Morong Yu's true identity. This was because in Qingxian Peak, those people only called Morong Yu Big Brother Morong. Who knew about Morong Yu's true identity? Only Zhao Jiqing, Jiang Lu, Chang Lu and the others. However, they all coincidentally agreed to keep this not-so-secret secret. Otherwise, in the past few months that Morong Yu had been in the hidden fairy valley, Zushenzong and Yuan Su sect would have already come to find him. How could they let Morong Yu be so quiet and leisurely? This time, when Morong Yu killed Hai Tao and the others, he did not use the golden skeleton. This was because he did not want to use other forces to kill his enemies. In the end, why did he use Hichu Luoshu to escape? Obviously, Hai Tao was an expert in the spirit-severing stage. Even if Morong Yu used all his strength, he was not his opponent. Even if the speed of the army formula was unparalleled in the world, Morong Yu's strength was too weak. He could not exert much power. Therefore, he could only use the Hichu Luoshu world to disappear in place, and then reappear in the distance. Without knowing that Morong Yu had Hichu Luoshu, they would only mistakenly think that Morong Yu had the magical power of crossing calamity stage, teleportation. Although a few months had passed, Zushenzong and Yuan Su sect were still looking for Morong Yu wantonly. They wanted to dig him out of the cultivation world and take him down. Chapter 110. Unlike before, the elders of the two major sects did not make a move. Although there were hundreds of thousands of disciples in the two sections, but there were not many elders. Moreover, they all knew how terrifying Morong Yu was. If they forced Morong Yu into a corner, Morong Yu would fight to the death. At that time, their elders would suffer heavy casualties. Now, all kinds of disciples from the two major sects were looking for Morong Yu. The low-level disciples were only in the foundation establishment stage, while the core disciples and even the true disciples of the major sects were involved. However, some well-known experts did not make a move. For example, the saint, the saintess, and the chief disciple. Although Morong Yu was infamous, his own strength wasn't anything special. He had only relied on the golden skeleton to get to where he was. In the cultivation world, those who were not shameless would have their own self-esteem and pride. They would never be calculative with those who were weaker than them. Therefore, although the two major sects were aggressively chasing after Morong Yu, they were much safer than before. Upper Azure Town was a large city in the cultivation world. Like ancient Spring City, it was a large city where the cultivation world traded goods. However, compared to ancient Spring City, Upper Azure Town was much larger. After all, ancient Spring City could only be considered an ordinary city. Upper Azure Town, on the other hand, was a super city. It was also one of the few cities in the cultivation world. After leaving the hidden fairy valley, Morong Yu appeared here. In the Hichu Luoshu world, there were countless elixirs. However, there were too few Dharma treasures. Apart from the flying swords that Morong Yu used to set up the array and distributed to the disciples of Green Xian Peak, there were not many flying swords left in the Hichu Luoshu world. Therefore, he came to Upper Azure Town this time, mainly to purchase flying swords. After all, without the attraction of flying swords and Dharma treasures, it would not be so easy for Green Xian Peak to recruit more disciples. Furthermore, even if there were people who were willing to join Qing Xian Peak, Morong Yu did not want these people to only use the lowest grade flying swords, which would not increase their strength at all. The Bada Chamber of Commerce was a famous chamber of commerce in the cultivation world. It was similar to the merchant guilds in the secular world, but there were also great differences. The Bada Chamber of Commerce dealt in goods from the cultivation world. Elixirs, Dharma treasures, spirit treasures, and other rare treasures. In Upper Azure Town, the Bada Chamber of Commerce owned an extremely luxurious shop. People came and went, and it was very lively. All of them showed the booming business of the Bada Chamber of Commerce. Morong Yu entered the Bada Chamber of Commerce. Looking at the dazzling array of high-quality goods in the shop, he sighed in his heart. In ancient Spring City, Morong Yu had also seen Origin Void Sect's shop. However, the Origin Void Sect's shop paled in comparison to the shop before his eyes. There was no comparison at all. There were hundreds of flying swords in the display window alone. But Yuan Su Sect's shop only had a pitiful 10 to 20 flying swords. From this, one could see the difference between the two. However, the Bada Chamber of Commerce was a famous chamber of commerce after all. It was normal for them to have such a scale. Morong Yu didn't have much interest in things like spiritual herbs. He stood in front of the display window and looked at the flying swords in a daze. The inferior-grade Dharma weapon flying swords were very cheap, but they still cost 10,000 essence recovery pills. However, the middle-grade Dharma weapon flying swords cost 500,000 essence recovery pills. The most ordinary superior-grade Dharma weapon flying swords cost 1,000,000 essence recovery pills each. Among them, the supreme-grade ones were even more expensive and cost a few million essence recovery pills. Cold sweat broke out on Morong Yu's forehead when he saw the prices of these flying swords. Was the Bada Chamber of Commerce really selling flying swords? This was daylight robbery. According to this price, if Qingxian Peak were to recruit 10,000 disciples in the future, each of them would be given a high-grade flying sword. Using the most common flying sword as an example, 10,000 times a million, Murong Yu's mind was in a mess. 10 billion essence recovery pills. This was the most ordinary configuration. Once everyone in Green Xian Peak became stronger, there would be no point in continuing to configure superior-grade Dharma weapons. That would require higher-grade flying swords, spirit weapons. Murong Yu looked at the price of the spirit weapon flying swords and was speechless. A first-grade spirit weapon cost 50 million essence recovery pills. It was no wonder that there were not many spirit weapons in the cultivation world. Apart from the fact that spirit weapons were extremely difficult to refine, it was also because of the high price. How many people could afford 50 million essence recovery pills? Only those large sects and family clans would be able to allocate flying swords of the spirit weapon level to the talents they were grooming. As for those smaller sects, even if they used all their resources, they would not be able to afford a flying sword spirit weapon. 10,000 people, each of them allocated a first-grade spirit weapon flying sword. Murong Yu frowned and calculated in his heart for a long time before he finally got the answer: 500 billion essence recovery pills. Moreover, if Murong Yu wanted to equip Green Xian Peak, it would not be just flying swords. They would also need all kinds of offensive and defensive Dharma treasures. Moreover, everyone would consume large amounts of essence recovery pills every day. The most important thing was that Green Xian Peak could not only recruit 10,000 disciples. Of course, these were not all allocated at once. However, Murong Yu was just sitting around and eating. There were only so many essence recovery pills in the Hichu Luoshu world. One less was one less. Murong Yu did some calculations. Adding everything up, he would need at least several trillion origin recovery pills. A few trillion, not just tens of thousands. In the past, Murong Yu still thought that he was considered a wealthy person in the cultivation world. However, he now realized that the resources he had were not worth mentioning. To a certain extent, he was still a poor person. On the contrary, large businesses like the Bada Chamber of Commerce were the real wealthy people. If I can rob the Bada Chamber of Commerce. Murong Yu suddenly had this thought. However, it was just a thought. The Bada Chamber of Commerce was able to stand tall in the cultivation world for so many years without collapsing. The power within the sect must be terrifying. It was probably not inferior to the top 10 sections. Moreover, in terms of financial resources, the top 10 sects could not compare to a super chamber of commerce like the Bada Chamber of Commerce. Looking at the flying swords in the display window, Murong Yu's eyes lit up, but his face was pained. "Sir, is there anything I can help you with?" At this time, a shop assistant who had been staring at Murong Yu for a long time came up and said respectfully to Murong Yu. Murong Yu's heart was pained, but in the end, he still bought these things. Thus, he pointed to the flying swords and said to the shop assistant, "How many middle-grade and upper-grade flying swords do you have for sale here?" Hearing Murong Yu's words, the shop assistant's heart jumped. He suddenly felt that a big business had come knocking. Thus, he became more enthusiastic and said, "Sir, if you want to buy flying swords, how many do you need? We have enough reserves here. As long as you have enough pills, we have enough flying swords." Murong Yu's heart jumped. According to this shop assistant, the Bada Chamber of Commerce had a lot of stock here. Was he not afraid of being robbed? Murong Yu secretly cursed in his heart. "I want 100 upper-grade flying swords, 500 middle-grade flying swords, and 50 spirit flying swords." Murong Yu thought for a moment and felt that this number should be enough to buy at this stage. Hearing this, the shop assistant was shocked. He looked at Murong Yu respectfully and said, "Sir, your needs are too big, I can't make the decision. Please follow me to the backstage, I will ask the supervisor to discuss with you personally." The waiter wasn't worried that Morong Yu was spouting nonsense. Who cared? Whoever dared to cause trouble here would be courting death. Morong Yu nodded and did not doubt anything else. He followed the shop assistant to the backstage. Perhaps the shop assistant had already informed the supervisor. When Morong Yu just entered the backstage, a shrewd-looking old man smiled and greeted him. Finally, he led Morong Yu into a room. "Sir, I am the supervisor of the Bada Chamber of Commerce, Wu Dong. How should I address you?" Wu Dong's eyes flashed with shrewdness as he looked at Morong Yu with a smile. If what the shop assistant said was true, then today's big business could raise his status in the Bada Chamber of Commerce to a higher level. Morong Yu. Morong Yu was not pretentious and did not hide his identity. Even if he tried to hide it, it would be useless. As long as the Bada Chamber of Commerce was willing, it would be quickly investigated. Morong Yu. Wu Dong's eyes flickered as he took another glance at Morong Yu. However, he was after all the supervisor of the Bada Chamber of Commerce. The surprise on his face disappeared in a flash. 100 upper-grade flying swords, 500 middle-grade flying swords, and 50 spirit-grade flying swords. I want the stock, Supervisor Wu. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Morong Yu did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Of course there's no problem. Supervisor Wu took out an abacus and tapped it for a while, then said, 100 upper-grade flying swords, 1 million for each, a total of 100 million yuan recovery pills. 500 middle-grade flying swords, 500,000 yuan recovery pills for each, a total of 250 million yuan recovery pills. 50 spirit-grade flying swords, a total of 2.5 billion yuan recovery pills. 3 types, a total of 2.85 billion yuan recovery pills. Of course, this is only calculated based on the most common magic weapon. If you want something of better quality, the price will be calculated separately. 2.85 billion yuan recovery pills. Morong Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment, he really wanted to ask, "Did you calculate wrongly?" However, in fact, Morong Yu knew that Wu Dong did not calculate wrongly. 2.8 billion yuan recovery pills. This was a huge amount of wealth. Even an ordinary first-class person would not be able to take out so many pills at once. Of course, for Morong Yu, he could still take it out. However, 2.5 billion yuan recovery pills was not a small amount. What made Morong Yu speechless was that he suddenly remembered the immortal Juetian array that was set up outside the ancient spring city that day. At that time, 99 spirit-grade flying swords were used to set up the array. In the end, these spirit-grade flying swords were all shattered by the golden skeleton. The most common spirit-grade flying sword was worth 50 million yuan recovery pills. The lowest grade flying sword used to set up the array that day was a third-grade spirit weapon. The price was getting higher and higher. Now that he thought about it, he had shattered at least 100 billion yuan recovery pills that day. Chapter 111. Thinking of this, Morong Yu's face suddenly showed a pained expression. Compared to the hundreds of billions, the current 2.8 billion yuan recovery pills was just the tip of the iceberg. However, when Wu Dong saw Morong Yu's pained expression, he mistakenly thought that Morong Yu was pained by these pills. In fact, who wouldn't feel pained after all? It was 2.8 billion and not 28. Wu Dong's face was full of smiles as he looked at Morong Yu and said, "The total value is 2.85 billion. This is a big deal. How about this? I'll give you a discount, 10% discount." While speaking, Wu Dong's fingers tapped on the keyboard and finally said, "After the 10% discount, the total price is 2.565 billion yuan recovery pills. Mr. Morong Yu, do you want to settle the bill now?" Morong Yu's brows slightly wrinkled and said, "Director Wu, this is a big deal, right? Is it only 10% discount? Can you continue to give me a discount? How about 20% discount?" Director Wu's face showed a smile as he awkwardly said, "Mr. 10% discount is already the best discount. Although the price of our flying swords is not low, but the various materials are also extremely precious. 10% discount is already a small profit. Small profit? Murong Yu sneered in his heart. Although he didn't know how to refine weapons, but the trashiest spirit weapon could be sold for tens of millions of yuan recovery pills, it was absolutely a huge profit. He made a lot of money. Can't you give me a better discount? This isn't the last time I'm going to make a purchase. I will buy a lot in the future. I really can't. Wu Dong's face was full of embarrassment. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, I'll make the decision, we don't want the change. Mister, you only need to pay 2.5 billion yuan recovery pills. Looking at Wu Dong's determined face, it seemed that it was extremely difficult for him to make this decision. Murong Yu was speechless in his heart. But he also knew that this was already the lowest price. However, the discount of more than 300 million yuan recovery pills was a small comfort. Mr. Murong, our goods are ready. I wonder. Wu Dong looked at Murong Yu. His meaning was obvious. He had already prepared the goods. Have you prepared the price? Murong Yu nodded, then frowned slightly and said, 2.5 billion origin recovery pills is not a small number. Manager Wu, I wonder if you have any storage equipment that is easier and bigger? I'm afraid this place won't be able to store so many pills. No problem. Please wait a moment. Wu Dong smiled and left the room. Not long after, he walked in again. Then, he handed Murong Yu 2 rings and a few storage pouches. This is a storage ring. Although the space inside is not big, it should be able to store 1 billion recovery pills. Murong Yu nodded and took the ring. He probed it with his divine sense and found that the space inside was much larger than an ordinary storage bag. A normal storage bag didn't have a lot of space. Among the storage bags that Murong Yu had plundered from others before, there were both good and bad quality ones. However, the largest storage bag could only store 10 million yuan recovery pills. There was a world of difference between these storage rings and heaven and earth. Even the storage bag that Wu Dong brought had a relatively large space. It could store about 100 million yuan recovery pills. Murong Yu threw these storage rings and storage bags into the storage bag at his waist. In fact, he threw them into the Hichu Luoshu world. After filling it with 2.5 billion yuan recovery pills, he handed it to Wu Dong. Wu Dong took the rings with some hesitation and found that there was not a single yuan recovery pill in them. Immediately, he looked at the storage bag at Murong Yu's waist with a very surprised expression. He had never heard of a storage bag with such a large capacity. Moreover, it seemed that Murong Yu had more pills and the like on him. In other words, the capacity of his storage bag was more powerful than he had imagined. However, Wu Dong didn't know that the storage bag at Murong Yu's waist was actually the lowest grade storage bag. It couldn't hold much. Murong Yu was just using it to deceive others. After confirming that the number of yuan recovery pills was correct, Wu Dong handed a storage ring to Murong Yu. Murong Yu took it and probed it with his divine thought. He saw 50 spiritual weapons, 100 high-grade magic weapons, and 500 middle-grade magic weapons lying quietly inside. Not a single one was missing. Moreover, it seemed that the quality of these magic weapons should be good. Very good. The number is correct. Murong Yu put the storage ring in the storage bag. In fact, he threw it into the Hichu Luoshu world. The transaction was completed. After completing this transaction, Wu Dong was obviously very happy. He continued, Mr. Murong, our Bada Chamber of Commerce is one of the top chambers of commerce in the cultivation world. We deal in a variety of products. In addition to flying swords, do you want to take a look? In Wu Dong's opinion, Murong Yu was definitely a super big customer. If he was interested in other things, it would be another big deal. However, he was obviously going to be disappointed. Murong Yu only wanted to buy flying swords now. He was not interested in anything else. Director Wu, now that you mention it, I am really interested in something. Murong Yu narrowed his eyes and said. Wu Dong smiled slightly. Why don't we go out and take a look? This guy already regarded Murong Yu as a VIP. No need, it's just that storage ring. Do you want to sell it? How much is one? Murong Yu asked with a smile. Wu Dong was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, Storage rings are naturally sparkling and translucent. However, your storage pouch is of a much higher grade than our storage rings. Do you still need these small storage rings? Sometimes I need more storage rings, you know, Murong Yu said with a smile. Wu Dong quickly nodded as if he understood. We sell storage rings. However, Mr. Murong, since you are a big customer of our Bada commerce, what harm is there in giving you a few? As he spoke, Wu Dong flipped his hand and 3 storage rings appeared. I'm sorry about this, Murong Yu said with some embarrassment. In fact, his movements were extremely fast. He had already taken the 3 storage rings with a single swipe of his hand. He used his divine telekinesis and found that these storage rings had the same capacity as the ones just now. They should be worth a lot. Wu Dong didn't mind. After all, he was planning to give these storage rings to Murong Yu anyway. Even if these storage rings were worth a lot, they had already made a lot of money from the deal with Murong Yu. Right at that moment, someone knocked on the door. Soon after, someone spoke from outside. Supervisor Wu, the elder has something to give to Mr. Murong Yu. Huh? Elder has something to give to Murong Yu? Director Wu was shocked. The elder that the staff mentioned was actually the great elder of the Bada Enterprise, Great Elder Qi Yang. Qi Yang was the great elder of the Bada Enterprise. He had great power in the Bada Enterprise and was second only to one person. The reason why Elder Qi Yang had come to Upper Azure Town this time was only because he had some business to attend to and was passing by. Wu Dong was curious about what Great Elder Qi Yang would give to Murong Yu, so he motioned for the staff to come in. The staff opened the door and walked in. He was holding a tray with both hands. There was a red silk cloth on the tray and a purple token lying quietly on it. The Bada token. When he saw the token, Wu Dong could not help but exclaim. The staff handed the Bada token to Murong Yu directly. Murong Yu grabbed the token and found it heavy. It was purple gold in color and emitted a faint purple light. On one side of the token, the word Bada was engraved in flamboyant calligraphy. On the other side, there was a big Ling word. Looking at Wu Dong's shocked expression, Murong Yu felt a little strange. He picked up the token in his hand and looked at it again. He did not find anything strange about it. It was just a little heavy and looked good. There was nothing special about it. What's so special about this Bada token? Murong Yu asked. Wu Dong took a deep breath and gave Murong Yu a deep look. Then, with a solemn expression, he said, The 8-talent medallion is the supreme token of our 8-talent Chamber of Commerce. As long as you have this token, you will get a 20% discount on all purchases in our Bada enterprise. If you sell something, you will get the highest price. Among them, with this token, our Bada enterprise can unconditionally do 3 things for you. Most importantly, there are no more than 10 people in the cultivation world who have the Bada token. Those who have the Bada token are definitely the most important guests of our Bada enterprise. Murong Yu was shocked. The 20% discount was not enough to shock him. Less than 10 people holding it was not enough to shock him. It was the 3 unconditional things that were truly priceless. The Bada enterprise was a giant in the cultivation world. Not only were they rich, but they were also very powerful. Even destroying a large sect wouldn't be a problem. In other words, as long as Murong Yu asked them to destroy a big sect, the Bada enterprise would not hesitate to destroy the sect. It was definitely a priceless treasure. Looking at the Bada token in his hand, Murong Yu was shocked. Wu Dong was also shocked. After a long time, Murong Yu solemnly kept the Bada token in the Hichu Luoshu world. This was a priceless treasure. If he used it well, it would definitely be beneficial to him. However, what puzzled Morongyu was why the Bada token's great elder would give him such a precious token. Morongyu definitely did not think that it was just because of his business today. A business of more than 2 billion was definitely a huge business for many people. However, it was definitely not worth mentioning to the Bada enterprise. Therefore, Qi Yang definitely did not give him the Bada token because of this. However, other than this, what other reason could there be for Qi Yang to give him the Bada token? Could it be because of the potential he had shown? Potential could be said to be the most illusory thing. Having great potential was a good thing. However, if one fell or died prematurely, then the loss would outweigh the gain. Morongyu was completely baffled by this. Even Wu Dong couldn't understand it. Chapter 112. Supervisor Wu, I would like to pay a visit to your great elder. Morongyu pondered for a moment and felt that it would be better for him to pay a visit to the great elder. Otherwise, Morongyu would feel uncomfortable if he did not get to the bottom of this matter. At the very least, he had to find out the reason behind this. Sir, the great elder has already left Upper Azure Town. Before he left, he told me that if Mr. Morongyu would like to meet him, the great elder will be back at the auction half a month later. The clerk said. Morongyu nodded, then turned to Wu Dong and asked, Manager Wu, what's going on? Is Upper Qingqing holding an auction? Is it hosted by your Ada Trade Union? Wu Dong shook his head and smiled bitterly. He was puzzled. Morongyu did not know anything about this. However, Morongyu had only been in the business for 3 years. It was natural that he did not know about this. Of course, Wu Dong had his doubts. Since Morongyu had betrayed Zushenzong, why did he buy so many magic treasures? Could it be that he wanted to cultivate his own force? However, as a qualified businessman, he would not voice out his doubts even though he had countless doubts. Respecting the privacy of a customer was a quality that a qualified businessman must have. Although our Ada Trade Union is one of the largest trade unions in the cultivation world, we are only selling our product. We are only good at selling all kinds of product. As for the auction house, it is the world's largest auction house in the cultivation world. Its strength is on par with the Ada Trade Union. Morongyu nodded slightly. As the saying went, there were specializations in every field. The world was so big that it was impossible for one person to do everything. When will the auction start? This is an auction that is held once every 3 years. Although it is not as good as the auction that is held once every 10 years, there are still many rare items. It will take a long time to prepare. It will be held in half a month. Your great elder said that he will be back on the day of the auction? Morongyu turned to the clerk and asked. The clerk nodded. If that's the case, then I'll stay in the city for the time being and wait for your great elder to come back. I'll take the opportunity to take a look at this auction house. Morongyu immediately decided. He hadn't seen these auction houses before, and this time, he planned to go and broaden his horizons. Furthermore, he had nowhere else to go after leaving the hidden fairy valley. In that case, there are a few guest rooms behind our octopus. If you don't mind, you can rest there. That's good. Morongyu smiled and nodded. Since everything was free, Morongyu was arranged to stay in the guest room of the Bada Chamber of Commerce for the time being. In the following days, more and more people entered Upper Azure City, perhaps because of the upcoming auction. All of a sudden, Upper Azure Town became even more lively. Time flew by like flowing water. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Tomorrow was the day of the auction. During this half a month, Morongyu might have been cultivating or searching for treasures in Upper Azure Town. In the process, he met some acquaintances, disciples of the Yuanshu sect and Zushenzong. However, when these people found out about Morongyu's identity, they became restless. However, no one dared to make a move in Upper Azure Town. Moreover, when they found out that Morongyu was in charge of the Bada Chamber of Commerce, they didn't even dare to spy on him outside. What was the Bada Chamber of Commerce? They could easily find an excuse to kill them. On the last day, Morong Yu saw an acquaintance. To be precise, it was two acquaintances. He had seen one of them before, and the other one he had never seen before. However, they were closely related to him. They were the sect masters of the Yuanshu sect and Zhushenzong. When these two people met Morong Yu, they almost wanted to take Morong Yu down. However, they didn't dare to make a move. Even though they were half immortals, how could they make a move in Upper Azure Town? Even if they were given a water tank as guts, they wouldn't dare to make a move. However, Morong Yu didn't have such a good temper and couldn't hold it in. After meeting these two people, he started cursing at them until they were fuming with anger. After falling out with them, Morong Yu didn't want to give them any face at all. So what if they were the sect masters of the top 10 sects? If it wasn't for the fact that Morong Yu wasn't confident that he could kill them, he would have already made a move. Even if he didn't make a move, he would have done something like a sneak attack. After giving the two sect masters a good scolding, Morong Yu returned to the Bada Chamber of Commerce in a carefree mood. Mr. Morong, the Great Elder has been waiting for a long time. As soon as Morong Yu returned, Wu Dong came up to him and said. Morong Yu's eyes lit up and he hurriedly followed Wu Dong to the backyard of the Chamber of Commerce. As soon as he stepped into the house, Morong Yu saw an old man with white hair and beard sitting on a chair. On the table next to him, a pot of hot tea was emitting a faint steam, and a tea fragrance assailed his nose. Morong Yu was startled and looked at the old man with white hair and beard. Unlike ordinary cultivators, this person was like an old man who was enjoying life. He didn't have the sharpness of an expert, the aura of an expert, and the smell of money of a businessman. On the contrary, this person gave Morong Yu a very amiable feeling. This was a very natural feeling, and it was definitely not caused by any cultivation technique. No matter how one looked at it, this old man was just like an old grandpa in the mortal world. There was no difference. If there was any difference, an old man of this age in the mortal world would more or less have some twilight aura. However, this person was full of vitality like a rising sun, full of vitality. Wu Dong greets the Great Elder. Wu Dong immediately bowed to the old man, waking Morong Yu up. So he is the Great Elder of the Bada Chamber of Commerce, Qi Yang. Morong Yu secretly said in his heart, then he cupped his fists and said, Junior Morong Yu greets the Great Elder Qi Yang. Qi Yang looked over and nodded at the two of them with a kind look on his face. He said, have a seat. Morong Yu nodded and didn't argue, directly sitting on the other side of the table. Wu Dong, on the other hand, took his leave. I heard that little friend Morong is very interested in me? Qi Yang poured a cup of tea for Morong Yu and said with a smile. Morong Yu suddenly felt a little scared. Although this person looked like a benevolent old man, he didn't seem to care. Morong Yu didn't forget his identity and status. Morong Yu was shocked that such an existence would personally pour tea for him, but at the same time, he admired this old man. After all, with his cultivation and status, being able to meet a small cultivator like Morong Yu was already giving him a lot of face, but now he was pouring tea for Morong Yu? This wasn't as simple as just giving face. Morong Yu picked up the tea and took a sip. Immediately, a fragrant aroma filled his mouth. Good tea. Morong Yu couldn't help but praise. This was all he could taste. As for the real tea, he didn't even taste good tea when he was at Morong's home. Moreover, his status was low, so how could he have the opportunity to taste tea? Morong Yu put down the teacup and looked at Qi Yang with a smile. You seem to be more interested in me. I should be the one asking you that. You mean the Bada medallion? Qi Yang asked. Morong Yu nodded. If I said I saw your potential, would you believe me? Qi Yang said with a smile. Morong Yu was startled. Of course, he didn't believe him. This might be enough to fool others, but it wasn't enough to fool him. He shook his head and smiled. I don't think that's all. What I'm more curious about is, other than my potential, What else does the old man see in me? Or rather, what do I have that the old man is interested in? Qi Yang took a sip of tea and said after a long pause, Heaven's secrets can't be revealed. Murong Yu rolled his eyes. What was the difference between that and not saying anything? From the looks of it, are you unhappy because you don't know why I gave you the Bada medallion? You don't even want to owe me a favor? Murong Yu nodded. That was how it was. He even considered returning the octopus token if he didn't know why Qi Yang wanted to give him the octopus token. After all, he didn't feel at ease using something he didn't know anything about. A favor. Murong Yu, you have great potential and will achieve great things in the future. The reason I gave you the Bada medallion is so that you will owe the Bada Chamber of Commerce a favor. A favor? Murong Yu laughed. The Bada Chamber of Commerce is one of the giants of the cultivation world. Why would they need a favor from me? What can I do? First, it's not for now, but it will be. Of course, maybe I won't need your favor. Even if there is a day when I need it, I won't force you. I only want you to do something within your power. It's that simple? Murong Yu was suspicious. It's that simple. Qi Yang smiled faintly and added more tea for Murong Yu. Little friend, you didn't come here just because of this question, right? Why don't you drop everything and drink tea with me? Then it would be impolite of me to refuse. After confirming Qi Yang's intentions, he still had some doubts in his heart. However, he had already relaxed. The World Auction was the largest auction house in the entire cultivation world, second to none. It was spread throughout the entire cultivation world. The Tianxia Auction House in Upper Azure City was just one of his branches. Moreover, the auction this time wasn't considered very large. It was just an auction that was held once every 3 years. Even so, the auction house was still crowded with people from all over the cultivation world. People from various sects and families came to bid for the items. After all, items that could enter the world auction were definitely of high quality. Moreover, some very precious items would appear every time there was a ranking. This year, it was said that a mysterious item appeared. In Upper Azure Town, which Chamber of Commerce had the most luxurious shop? It was definitely the shop of the giants like the Bada Chamber of Commerce. However, compared to the World Auction House, their shops paled in comparison and appeared somewhat shabby. Chapter 113. The World Auction House was the most luxurious and largest building in Upper Qinqing. In front of the auction house, there was a sea of people who were going to enter the auction. Murong Yu entered the auction house with Elder Qi Yang, Wu Dong, and a few other staff members. After all, the Bada Chamber of Commerce was one of the largest chambers of commerce in the world. Therefore, the auction house had arranged for them to have their own private room. Like other powerful sects, families, and individuals, they were all qualified to have a private room. They were not squeezed together with the people in the auction house's main hall. This is the treatment. After entering the private room, Murong Yu realized that the decorations were even more luxurious. Moreover, it seemed that every private room had been sealed. From the outside, one could not see what was going on inside. Even divine thought could not enter. However, from the inside of the private room, one could see everything clearly. Furthermore, each private room had a few young, beautiful, and graceful girls serving as maids, pouring tea and water for each guest. This treatment made Murong Yu sigh. However, he soon stopped sighing. This was because Qi Yang, Wu Dong, and the few staff members of the Bada Chamber of Commerce were all shocked. They did not show any signs of surprise. Obviously, they had seen it before. In comparison, Murong Yu suddenly felt that he was a country bumpkin who had just entered the city for the first time. He was too ignorant. Murong Yu smiled awkwardly and sat down. At this moment, Qi Yang waved his hand and dismissed the two maids. There will probably be many treasures in this auction. Murong Yu, if there is anything that you like, feel free to bid. As long as the price is within the range of the Bada Chamber of Commerce, we will help you get it. Qi Yang took a sip of tea and turned to look at Murong-yu. Murong-yu was shocked and looked at Qi Yang in surprise. He was not shocked by Qi Yang's generosity. In truth, even if Murong-yu had taken a fancy to something, he could simply buy it. To a giant like the Bada Chamber of Commerce, it was nothing. After all, Qi Yang had already given away the Bada token. If he were to give her some more now, it would just be icing on the cake. What shocked Murong-yu was Qi Yang's words, "As long as the price is within the range of our Bada enterprise." The Bada Chamber of Commerce was a giant in the cultivation world and possessed unparalleled wealth. Since even Qi Yang had said so, did that mean that there might be something extremely valuable in this auction? If that was the case, then it would be interesting. Murong-yu secretly looked forward to it. He could already see the scene of everyone fighting. "Hello everyone, we meet again." Half a day later, the tens of thousands of guests were already in their seat. At this moment, a vigorous old man walked up to a huge stage behind the auction house. The auction was about to begin. Murong-yu looked at the old man expectantly. I believe that many of you already know this old man. However, there seem to be a lot of new friends. Before the auction begins, allow this old man to introduce himself to my new friend. I'm Yen Xingji, the manager of this auction house. This time, I will personally host the auction. To think that Yen Xingji will personally host the auction. Before the old man's voice even fell, the entire auction house started to discuss. Each and every one of them was greatly astonished. What's wrong with him personally hosting the auction? Murong-yu looked at Wu Dong beside him in confusion. Generally speaking, the auction house has a dedicated auctioneer in charge of the auction. As the manager, Yen Xingji will not be the auctioneer himself, and every time he took on the role of auctioneer, there would always be a very precious item in the auction. Murong-yu nodded. This time, Yen Xingji was the auctioneer, which was to tell everyone to prepare their pills and the like to fight. This time there would definitely be treasures. Now that the introductions are over, I will now announce the start of the auction. As the appetizer of this auction, this time, we have a top-quality, high-grade flying sword. While Yen Xingji was speaking, a staff member of the auction house held a flying sword and walked up to the stage. Murong-yu looked over and found that it was indeed a high-grade flying sword. However, this flying sword was different from ordinary high-grade magic weapons. The flying sword had two colors, one red and one blue, which constantly intertwined on the sword body, emitting red and blue light. The two red and blue lights were like two divine dragons, intertwining within the flying sword. The most strange thing was that this flying sword actually emitted two completely different auras, blazing hot and cold. Two extreme powers actually appeared on the same flying sword at the same time, and they seemed to be compatible with each other without any rejection. Just like this flying sword had already shown an extraordinary side. As everyone can see, this is a flying sword with two attributes of water and fire. Yen Xingji held the flying sword in his hand and injected a little power into it. Boom! The long sword suddenly shone brightly. Two extreme attribute lights of red and blue emerged. The two powers, one hot and one cold, emitted a very powerful aura like a coiling divine dragon. Although this flying sword is only a high-grade magic weapon, because of the two attributes, its power is comparable to a spiritual weapon. Therefore, the price is 5 million recovery pills, and each bid must not be less than 100,000. Now, the bidding begins. 1 million. As soon as Yen Xingji's voice fell, a person shouted a price. After all, this was a high-grade magic weapon comparable to a spiritual weapon. In addition to the two attributes, although it was not comparable to a grade 1 spiritual weapon, it was not far off. And a grade 1 spiritual weapon flying sword would cost at least 50 million recovery pills. And this was only the starting price of 5 million, which was only 1/10 of the price. 2 million. Immediately, a second person shouted a price. 5 million, 6 million, 7 million. In just a few breaths, the price of this flying sword had increased by 7 million recovery pills. This made Morong Yu feel surprised, but he also felt that these people were crazy. 10 million recovery pills, I'll take it. At that moment, a pleasant voice, like that of an oriole, came from a private room not far from Morong Yu. You want to get this flying sword with 10 million? Ridiculous. 11 million. Another person raised the price, and from the voice, it was also a woman. Are these people crazy? Morong Yu was speechless. It was just a high-grade magic weapon flying sword, but the competition was so fierce. It was not like the Bada Chamber of Commerce did not have any spiritual weapon flying swords, so they could just buy it. It was not worth it to spend such a large sum of money here. Hee. This flying sword's power is comparable to a Grade 1 spiritual weapon. And a Grade 1 spiritual weapon requires at least 50 million recovery pills. Such a cheap flying sword is not sold outside, and the most important thing is that this flying sword has two attributes. Moreover, this flying sword is magnificent and gorgeous, suitable for those female cultivators who love beauty. Morong Yu nodded. Now the bidders were basically female cultivators. And the price had risen to 20 million recovery pills. 30 million. A trembling voice came from a private room not far away. Listening to the trembling voice, Morong Yu felt a little funny. 30 million recovery pills was nothing to this woman. After all, who could enter the private room was not rich and overbearing. This woman's voice was trembling, most likely she was gnashing her teeth. As Morong Yu guessed, now this woman was gnashing her teeth, and could not wait to kill the other people who were bidding with her. But, when she called out the price of 30 million, no one increased the price. Obviously, the price of this flying sword had reached its peak. In the end, after Yen Xingji called out 3 times, no one increased the price, and finally this high-grade magic weapon flying sword was sold for 30 million recovery pills. The price was 10 times higher than an ordinary high-grade magic weapon. After this appetizer, the atmosphere of the entire auction house had been ignited. Next, Yen Xingji consecutively auctioned several items. However, they were either some refining materials or some precious medicinal herbs. Because they were not peerless treasures, there were no surprises. However, they were auctioned off by some sects or individuals who specialized in refining weapons and medicine. Seeing that the people below were not interested, Yen Xingji smiled and said, "The next item is a defensive treasure robe, the Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe. Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe." Hearing these 4 words, Morong Yu, who happened to be sipping tea, could not help but jump up from his chair and spit out the tea in his mouth. Everyone in the private room was shocked by Morong Yu's strong reaction and hurriedly looked at Morong Yu. Morong Yu had already looked down. On the high platform, a maid was holding a tray, and on the tray was a purple ribbon that emitted a powerful aura. Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe. When Morong Yu saw the purple ribbon, he was shocked. It really is the Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe. Looking at the purple ribbon, Morong Yu could not be more shocked. This purple ribbon was identical to Morong Yu's Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe. Could there be a second Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe in the cultivation world? Morong Yu thought to himself in shock. Seeing Morong Yu's shocked expression, Qi Yang and Wu Dong both looked at him in surprise. Morong Yu's reaction was too big. "Young Morong, could it be that you've taken a fancy to this Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe? Why don't you bid for it?" Qi Yang said with a smile. Hearing this, Morong Yu reacted and said embarrassedly, "No, I've only heard of the Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe before, but I didn't expect to see it now. That's why I'm shocked." Qi Yang nodded slightly, acknowledging Morong Yu's generosity. However, he said with a smile, "I'm afraid this Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe is different from what you've heard." Morong Yu looked at Qi Yang strangely. Qi Yang did not answer his question. Instead, he said, "You'll know when you see it." Seeing that Qi Yang did not say anything, Morong Yu did not ask any more questions and only looked down at the high platform. Like Morong Yu, most of the people in the auction house were looking at the purple ribbon. Chapter 114. Purple Ribbon Immortal Robe, a defensive immortal artifact. As soon as Yen Xingji said this, the entire auction house exploded like a tidal wave. An immortal artifact was being auctioned today? Everyone was shocked and excited at the same time. Many of them stared fiercely at the purple ribbon, unable to take their eyes off it. It was as if they wanted to remember it. Yen Xingji smiled brightly when he saw the crowd's reaction. He pressed his hands down. Soon, the auction house calmed down. It's true that the purple ribbon immortal robe is an immortal artifact. However, how many immortal artifacts are there in the entire cultivation world? This purple ribbon immortal robe isn't an immortal artifact. No way, are you trying to trick us? You said it was an immortal artifact just now, why are you saying it isn't? What are you doing? Yen Xingji's words were interrupted again. Some people in the crowd started cursing when they heard that the purple ribbon immortal robe wasn't an immortal artifact. They were clearly disappointed. If they didn't know that this was the World Auction House, they would have started causing a ruckus. Morong Yu frowned. It wasn't an immortal artifact? The immortal robe he was wearing was an immortal artifact. Since it wasn't an immortal artifact, it had to be a replica. Morong Yu heaved a sigh of relief when he confirmed that the robe wasn't an immortal artifact. He then sat down. Seeing Morong Yu's actions, Qi Yang indifferently glanced at him. Wu Dong, on the other hand, felt that Morong Yu was a little strange. Yen Xingji suppressed the noise and continued, "This purple ribbon immortal robe isn't an immortal artifact. However, it's a grade 6 spiritual artifact and is very powerful. Moreover, it's a very rare defensive spiritual artifact. It's invulnerable and can change its shape at will. It has extreme defensive power. Therefore, the starting price is 60 billion. Each increment can't be less than 1 billion. The bidding starts now." A grade 6 spiritual artifact and a defensive treasure robe. The crowd, who were disappointed that the purple ribbon immortal robe wasn't an immortal artifact, started making a ruckus again. After a short silence, the auction house went into a frenzy. 65 billion. The first person to bid directly increased the price by 5 billion recovery pills. It could be seen that he was very enthusiastic and had strong financial resources. 66 billion. 67 billion. Everyone was very enthusiastic and shouted their bids one after another. The price continued to soar. Morong Yu secretly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead when he heard the crowd shouting out their bids. A 6th grade spirit artifact could actually be sold for a base price of 60 billion recovery pills. This world was really too crazy. What made Morong Yu even more depressed was that these people were crazily bidding. It was as if they were not shouting in the hundreds of millions, but in the single digit. At this time, Morong Yu suddenly felt like a pauper. 100 billion. While Morong Yu was deep in thought, the price of the violet ribbon immortal robe had soared to 100 billion. Has the world gone mad? Morong Yu was shocked. Then, he looked at Qi Yang. Old man, is this 6th grade spiritual artifact really that valuable? Spiritual artifacts are very rare in the cultivation world, and 6th grade spiritual artifacts are even rarer. Moreover, this is a defensive treasure robe. It's more valuable than an offensive flying sword. If you don't have 200 billion, I'm afraid you won't be able to get it. 200 billion. Morong Yu felt his throat go dry. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva and look at Qi Yang. Qi Yang nodded. Morong Yu was completely speechless. At this time, Morong Yu felt even more heartache. Previously, in order to kill Fei Mingzhong, who was at the body integration stage, he had destroyed dozens of flying swords. Even if the flying swords weren't as valuable as the treasure robe, they were still dozens of spiritual artifacts. When Morong Yu thought about it, He felt that he had wasted a few trillion origin rejuvenation pills to kill those people. If it had been pills, he would have been able to kill Fei Mingzhong and the others. I definitely can't be such a spendthrift in the future, Morong Yu thought to himself. At this time, the price of the violet ribbon immortal robe had reached 190 billion, 195 billion, 196 billion. At this time, there were only 2 or 3 people bidding in the entire auction house. The others either didn't continue bidding because they didn't have enough money, or perhaps they wanted to save money to bid on the next item. In the end, the price of the 6th grade spiritual artifact soared to 200 billion. By this time, everyone had already given up. In the end, it was bought by a buyer. Following that, a few more items were auctioned off, but there weren't any surprises. The highest price was only 100 million. Compared to the 200 billion violet ribbon immortal robe, it was too shabby. At this moment, a waiter carried a black wooden stick that was about half a meter long and as thick as an adult's forearm on a tray. What kind of immortal artifact is this? Seeing the wooden stick, one of the cultivators in the hall immediately shouted out. Yan Xingji showed a trace of awkwardness and said, "It looks like a tree trunk but also like metal. Even our auction house doesn't know what it is. However, it's impervious to fire and water and invulnerable to weapons. Even the 3 true fire cannot harm him in the slightest." "Is it that magical?" someone said in disbelief. Yan Xingji said awkwardly, "It's absolutely impervious to fire and water. Before we decided to auction it, we tested it. We swear on the reputation of the World Auction House, we're absolutely honest." "But what's the use of this stick? Are we going to use it as a fire stick? Or use it to smash people?" Haha! Everyone in the hall laughed. "This is a mysterious item with unknown use and origin. The starting price is 100,000 recovery pills, and each bid must be at least 10,000. The bidding starts now." After a long time, only laughter and voices could be heard in the hall, but no one bid. For the first time in the auction, there was an awkward silence. "The starting price is 100,000, no one bid? Maybe it's a rare material for refining a divine weapon," Yan Xingji said on the high platform. "Making fire sticks?" Someone roared with laughter. "Unknown origin, unknown material, unknown use. Although it's impervious to fire and water, it's not an offensive weapon. However, it wasn't an offensive magic treasure, nor was it a defensive magic treasure. Moreover, the starting price was 100,000. No one would be stupid enough to buy something that they didn't know anything about." "The third time, is there anyone bidding?" Yan Xingji shouted again. If no one bid this time, he would have to withdraw this item. After all, he had expected this situation before he decided to auction it. "Morong Yu, you must bid for it. No matter how many recovery pills it costs, you must get it." At this time, Hichu's excited voice sounded in Morong Yu's ears. "What's the situation? You're saying you want to use 100,000 recovery pills to buy this fire stick?" Morong Yu asked in confusion. "Don't say such nonsense, you won't lose out. You'll find out in the future. Hurry up and buy it," Hichu urged anxiously. Yan Xingji looked at the auction house and saw that there was still no one bidding. He sighed in his heart. Just as he was about to withdraw this mysterious wooden stick, and exclaimed in his heart that this was the first time in his auction career that an unsold item had appeared, 110,000. At this time, a voice came from one of the private rooms. Hearing this voice, the hall suddenly quietened down, and everyone looked towards the private room where the voice came from. Yan Xingji also looked over in surprise, but his face revealed a trace of a smile. "Which idiot bid?" People outside the private room couldn't see the situation inside, but it couldn't stop others from discussing. Spending 110,000 recovery pills to buy this unknown wooden stick, what an idiot. In a moment, countless people were discussing, and all of them felt that the person who bid for this wooden stick must have had a fever. In the private room, Morong Yu looked at Qi Yang and Wu Dong with a burning face and said, "Nothing, I just felt that sitting here and not auctioning anything was quite boring, so I bid for it to play." However, Qi Yang and Wu Dong still looked at Morong Yu with strange eyes, making Morong Yu feel even more embarrassed. "Hichu, what the hell is this fire stick?" Morong Yu secretly transmitted his voice to He-Tu while gnashing his teeth. However, Hichu didn't care about Morong Yu at all. Outside, after Yen Xingji asked 3 times in a row, he finally made the final decision. Morong Yu had won the bid for the black fire stick without any opponent. Not long after, someone from the auction house came to invite Morong Yu to the backstage to hand over the recovery pills. This was because the auction house was afraid that some people would make irresponsible remarks and bid for the item at an extremely high price, but in the end, they did not have the money to pay. When the person came, Qi Yang motioned for Wu Dong to pay the bill. However, he was rejected by Morong Yu. 110,000 recovery pills was just a small amount to him. So what if the price was higher? Morong Yu didn't want to owe too much to the Bada Chamber of Commerce. Backstage, after Morong Yu paid the bill, the auction house handed the fire stick to Morong Yu. After Morong Yu took the fire stick, he was shocked. It was extremely heavy. This fire stick was as thick as a forearm and only half a meter long, but it weighed at least 10,000 jin. He didn't know what it was made of. He couldn't tell, but it was cold to the touch. After returning to the private room, Morong Yu handed the fire stick to Qi Yang. Qi Yang took it and looked at it, but he couldn't see anything special about it, so he returned it to Morong Yu. Morong Yu stuffed the fire stick into his storage bag, but in reality, he threw it to Hichu in the Hichu Luoshu world. "Morong Yu, you actually got it. This auction was definitely worth it." Hichu held the fire stick with both hands and laughed excitedly. "After the auction, you need to give me an explanation." Morong Yu only said one sentence, and then his spiritual sense left the Hichu Luoshu world. Chapter 115. For Morong Yu, spending 110,000 recovery pills on a stick was not worth it. However, he did not mind. After all, it was Hichu who asked for it. However, what made him feel strange was that Hichu was so excited. If that was the case, it meant that the fire stick was indeed a treasure. After a short while, the auction continued. This time, a bottle of 10 realm-breaking pills was auctioned. Realm-breaking pills. When the pills were brought up to the stage, Morong Yu could see the burning eyes of the people below and their rapid breathing. It was as if they were already prepared to get their hands on the realm-breaking pills. Realm-breaking pills. I don't need to tell you much about its effects. Those below the crossing calamity stage will not be hindered by the realm-breaking pill and will directly break through. The starting price is 100 million recovery pills. Each increment must not be less than 10 million. The bidding starts now. When he saw the realm-breaking pills, Morong Yu's eyes lit up. Although there were many pills in the Hichu Luoshu world, they were all recovery pills. However, there were no realm-breaking pills. As Yen Xingji said, the realm-breaking pills were used to break through the bottleneck of the realm-breaking calamity stage. For example, if a person was stuck in the spirit-severing stage for a long time and could not break through, if he had a realm-breaking pill at that time, he could directly break through to the form synthesis stage. Of course, how many realm-breaking pills could be used to break through the realm-breaking calamity stage depended on the person's luck and character. Some people could break through the realm-breaking calamity stage with just one realm-breaking pill. However, some people would only be able to break through after taking a few realm-breaking pills. Moreover, the realm-breaking pill was only useful for those below the crossing calamity stage. In other words, cultivators in the form synthesis stage could not break through to the crossing calamity stage by taking the realm-breaking pill. Of course, there would be another type of pill at that time. Morong Yu, you must get this realm-breaking pill. It will be beneficial for you to cultivate your own power. Hichu's voice sounded in Morong Yu's ears. Morong Yu nodded. He was determined to get this bottle of realm-breaking pills. It's a pity that there are only 10 pills. They're not very useful, Morong Yu said regretfully. Even if each of the 10 breakthrough pills could allow one to break through to the next stage, it would only allow one person to break through to the form synthesis stage. With so many disciples in Qinxian Peak, 10 realm break pills were equivalent to nothing. Just take it. As long as you take this bottle of breakthrough pills, I guarantee that you will have an endless supply of breakthrough pills in the future. Hichu said confidently. Can you refine these breakthrough pills? Morong Yu asked in surprise. The breakthrough pill was different from the return pill. The refining method of the return pill was very simple, and the ingredients were not very precious. That was why there were so many rejuvenation pills in the cultivation world. However, the breakthrough pill was different. It required a lot of spirit grasses and all kinds of heavenly treasures. Moreover, these spirit grasses and spirit medicines were extremely rare and difficult to collect. Even if all of them were gathered, there were not many people in the cultivation world who could refine this kind of pill. This was because this prescription had been lost for a long time. Even if one had the prescription and all the ingredients, it would be difficult to refine it successfully. Therefore, even though the breakthrough pill was only a one-time use pill, it was still very valuable. The starting price for one pill was already 10 million rejuvenation pills. Just bid for it. I have my ways, Hichu said calmly. Morong Yu nodded. Today, he realized that Hichu was really too mysterious. However, this was not a big deal. After all, it would only be good for him. 110 million, 120 million, 150 million, 200 million. In the blink of an eye, the price of the breakthrough pill soared to 200 million. Moreover, the auction house was very excited. Everyone was very enthusiastic about bidding. Whether it was for their own use or for their descendants, many people needed the breakthrough pill. Especially those cultivators who had been stuck in the cultivation stage for many years. They were bidding even more fiercely. 800 million. At this moment, the price of the breakthrough pill had risen to 800 million rejuvenation pills. However, unlike the raging crowd before, after reaching this price, some people had already stopped bidding. After all, even though the breakthrough pill was precious, it was not enough for them to lose everything. Plus, it seems like the price of the rejuvenation pill will continue to increase. However, compared to these people, those who had been stuck in the cultivation stage for a long time and were nearing the end of their life were all bidding with bulging veins. So what if they were in-laws? After all, they were nearing the end of their lives. Once they die, the rejuvenation pills and treasures have nothing to do with them. Therefore, even if they had to borrow money, they had to bid for these precious breakthrough pills. As long as they break through the cultivation stage, they will have a longer life to cultivate. In the future, sooner or later, they will be able to get back what they lost today. 1 billion. Just then, Morong Yu, who had been quiet all this time, began to bid. 1 billion. Hearing Morong Yu's bid, the entire auction house fell silent. Who is this guy? He is too ruthless. Everyone else raised the price by 10 million, but this guy raised it by 200 million. In an instant, countless hateful gazes were directed at Morong Yu's private room. However, it was a pity that he couldn't see clearly who was inside. 1 billion. Just then, a weak voice rang out in the auction house. Silence. After this person called out the price, everyone's eyes were focused on Morong Yu's private room. They wanted to see if Morong Yu would continue to bid. However, to their disappointment, Morong Yu did not continue to bid after the first bid. 1 billion going once. Is there anyone else who wants to bid? Yen Xingji had already called out the price for the second time. As long as he asked again and no one increased the price, this bottle of breakthrough pills would be sold. Hearing Yen Xingji's shout, the crowd came back to their senses. Damn it, this is the bastard. He raised the price by 200 million and did not continue to bid. Damn it, if I find out who this bastard is, I will kill him. Curses rang out in the auction house. 1.02 billion. 1,030 million. Thus, everyone began to bid crazily. Young friend, you seem to be interested in this breakthrough pill? Qi Yang asked. Of course. I am only in the revolving reflection stage now. I have many enemies. I have to find ways to increase my strength. Murong Yu smiled. Qi Yang frowned. The breakthrough pill is good, but it is not beneficial to eat too much. Murong Yu looked as if he had learned a lesson. However, only the heavens knew that he wanted to bid for it. Although he wanted to use it for himself, he did not want to use it himself. 1.01 billion. The price soared to 1.01 billion. 1.02 billion. At this moment, Murong Yu raised the price by 100 million again. When they realized that the person who had raised the price by 100 million had come from the same private room, everyone in the auction house gritted their teeth. They all wanted to rush into the private room and tear the person who had raised the price to shreds. 1.02 billion. Someone followed Murong Yu's bid. 1.03 billion. Murong Yu raised the price again. Damn it. Raising the price by 100 million, was this bastard trying to play people to death? Someone in the auction house immediately cursed. Murong Yu's method of raising the price made many people give up on the idea of bidding. Qi Yang frowned. Murong Yu's method of raising the price was too wasteful. However, he did not say anything. He frowned and looked outside again. 1.03 billion had scared off most of the bidders. When Murong Yu raised the price again, he had raised the price to 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion for a bottle of breakthrough pill. 150 million for a bottle. It was already more than 10 times the original price. This price had far exceeded the value of the breakthrough pill. Over 100 million for one breakthrough pill. Even if it was a breakthrough, the price was too high. It was not worth it at all. Finally, when Murong Yu raised the price to 1.5 billion, no one continued to bid against him. However, what they did not know was that although the breakthrough pill was a one-time use pill, however, this was not the case for Murong Yu. Perhaps soon, he could use the breakthrough pill to earn back the recovery pill that he had spent this time. Of course, this was only his guess. Could Hichu really make the breakthrough pill? This was still unknown. However, Hichu gave Murong Yu a guarantee. No matter the price, Murong Yu would not lose out. Because of this, Murong Yu raised the price without restraint. It had to be said that today's auction was a pill banquet. After the breakthrough pill, there was another pill. Moreover, this pill was even more magical and precious than the breakthrough pill. Because this pill was called the Immortal Ascension Pill. What was the Immortal Ascension Pill? As long as one was a cultivator, they would have heard of the magical effects of this pill. As everyone knew, after successfully passing the 49 heavenly tribulations, one would enter the transformation stage. The transformation stage, as the name implied, was when the cultivator who had passed the tribulation absorbed the immortal qi that leaked out from the gate of immortality to transform his mortal body into an immortal body. However, putting aside the terror of the 49 heavenly tribulations, it would be very lucky if 1 out of 10 people could pass the tribulation successfully. Moreover, even after passing the tribulation, the speed of transforming into an immortal body would vary. After all, one's strength depended on the size of the gate of immortality. The size of the gate of immortality affected the speed at which the immortal qi leaked out. In the cultivation world, most of the cultivators who had successfully passed the 49 heavenly tribulations could only barely open a crack in the gate of immortality. Think about it, this was only a crack of immortal qi. How long would it take for a mortal body to completely transform into an immortal body? Once a cultivator entered the transformation stage, their lifespan would directly increase by hundreds of thousands of years. However, in the cultivation world, even if a cultivator in the transformation stage had a lifespan of hundreds of thousands of years, there were still many cultivators who could successfully transform their mortal body into an immortal body before their lifespan ran out. In the end, their lifespan ran out and they died. There were many such examples. Therefore, the Immortal Ascension Pill was created. Chapter 116. The transformation stage was further divided into the half-immortal level, the first step immortal, the half-step immortal. The so-called half-step immortal was a cultivator whose physical body had transformed into an immortal body. For example, Sect Master Zhuang Ningguang of Zhushenzong was said to have a half-immortal body, but in reality, he was far from the half-immortal level. He had only just entered the transformation stage. Just one immortal ascension pill could increase the speed at which a mortal body transformed into an immortal body. Of course, the more immortal ascension pills one consumed, the faster the transformation would be. Therefore, when this immortal ascension pill appeared, the entire auction house was in an uproar. All the transformation stage cultivators and cultivators from large sects were excited. They even stared at the small bottle on the high platform with red eyes, wanting nothing more than to rush up and snatch the immortal ascension pill. Even Qi Yang, who was in the private room, changed his expression instantly. I won't say much about the effects of the Immortal Ascension Pill. It's definitely a great tool for immortal ascension. As long as you're in the transformation stage or have a master in the transformation stage, after consuming this pill, you'll immediately increase the speed at which you transform into an immortal body. Ascension will no longer be a dream. Yan Xingji, who was on the high platform, smiled brightly as he looked at the raging crowd below. However, he felt that it was a pity. He was also a transformation stage cultivator, but when he went through the tribulation, he only blasted a small crack in the immortal door. If he could obtain this immortal ascension pill, there was no doubt that he would have a chance to ascend into an immortal in this lifetime. However, this pill was from the auction house. With his wealth, there was no way he could obtain this immortal ascension pill. The starting price is 100 billion. Each increment must be no less than 10 billion. The bidding begins now, Yan Xingji shouted loudly. 110 billion. 120 billion. Unlike the previous high-grade pills, there were far fewer people bidding this time. This was because the starting price alone was enough to deter many people from bidding. They were not even qualified to participate in the auction. Even so, the bidding was still very intense. The price continued to rise, and it didn't take long for it to break through the 200 billion mark. Then, it quickly rushed towards the 300 billion mark. 250 billion. At this moment, a voice that Murong Yu was familiar with came from a private room in the distance. Murong Yu was startled. This was the first time he had heard this familiar voice. I didn't expect him to bid for this immortal ascension pill. Murong Yu sneered inwardly. 260 billion. A voice came from another private room. Following which, the person laughed heartily and said, Brother Zhuang, how about giving this item to me? Hearing this voice, Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat. This was also a familiar face. Haha, brother son, I must obtain this immortal ascension pill. If you want it, then use your wealth to knock me down. The person called Brother Zhuang laughed and continued to bid, 270 billion. Since that's the case, I won't hold back. 280 billion. 300 billion. The price of the Immortal Ascension pill finally broke through the 3,000 mark. At this time, there were still dozens of people shouting bids in the auction house. These people should be from the major sects and clans in the cultivation world. Only they would have such a large amount of materials. Old Master Qi, do you have any interest in this pill? Murong Yu turned to look at Old Master Qi Yang. Ever since this old man entered the auction house, he had never made a move. Just as he said, He was only here to take a look. Although the Immortal Ascension pill is precious, I don't need it, Qi Yang said indifferently. Murong Yu was shocked. Although he couldn't see through old Master Qi Yang's cultivation, he guessed that he should be in the transformation stage. However, he actually said that he didn't need it. In other words, even if he wasn't close to becoming an immortal, he was confident that he could completely transform his mortal body into an immortal's body before he was born. While he was shocked, Murong Yu smiled and said, "Since old Master Qi isn't going to bid, I'll begin." Murong Yu smiled and said, 350 billion. 350 billion. He directly increased the price by 50 billion. One must know that although the previous bids were fierce, they were only increasing the price by 10 billion. However, Murong Yu immediately increased the price by 50 billion. Damn, it's that bastard from the private room again. When they realized that Murong Yu's voice came from the private room again, the people in the hall immediately realized that there was going to be a good show to watch this time. Those who weren't participating in the auction watched the battle between the two with great interest. However, for those who participated in the auction, Murong Yu's method of increasing the price made their hearts heavy. At this moment, their faces were gloomy. 360 billion. 370 billion. Murong Yu only managed to shout once before he went silent. However, the bidding was still very fierce and broke through the 400 billion mark. 450 billion. Just as the price broke through the 400 billion mark, Murong Yu once again increased the price by 50 billion. 500 billion. 550 billion. 700 billion. After Murong Yu crazily increased the price of this Immortal Ascension pill had already reached the 700 billion mark. It was extremely shocking. However, at this moment there were only a few people bidding. There were only a dozen people left. Which friend is deliberately causing trouble? Are you trying to make things difficult for my limitless sword sect? A cold voice came from a private room, filled with killing intent. Limitless Sword Sect, one of the top 10 sects in the cultivation world. At this moment, they actually took the initiative to reveal their identity, indicating that Murong Yu's actions had angered them to the point that they wanted to kill him. What a joke! What is your Limitless Sword Sect? If you don't have money, then go home and herd your sheep. I hate people like you the most. Just as the Limitless Sword Sect's ruthless words came out, Murong Yu's explosive words came out. Hearing Murong Yu's voice, the entire auction house went silent for a moment. After a moment, the entire hall burst into laughter. Who is this person to be so arrogant? He actually wants one of the top 10 sects to go home and herd sheep. Haha, I'm dying of laughter. Go home and herd sheep. After the sheep are fattened, sell them for money. Ha ha. Ha ha. Everyone laughed. Even Yen Xingji, who was on the stage, could not help but laugh. However, as the party involved, the Limitless Sword Sect's people were so angry that their faces turned green. Your Excellency has a very good suggestion. I don't know who Your Excellency is, but after the auction, I will personally pay you a visit. The Limitless Sword Sect's person said coldly as he gritted his teeth. A wave of cold, killing intent pervaded the air, enveloping the entire auction house. Humph, the Limitless Sword Sect is so impressive. I'll still say the same thing. If you have money, then continue bidding. If you don't, then go home and herd your sheep. Do you still want to bid? If not, then the Immortal Ascension pill is mine. Murong Yu sneered. 800 billion. The Limitless Sword Sect's people gritted their teeth and directly added another 100 billion. 850 billion. Murong Yu yelled. However, his voice seemed to be somewhat strained. The people present were all experts. Very quickly, they understood the meaning behind Murong Yu's voice. This fella probably did not have many pills left. This price was probably close to his limit. Sure enough, in the following auction, Murong Yu only increased the price by 10 billion in the private room, Qi Yang looked at Morong Yu with a strange expression. You're not afraid of the limitless sword sex people taking revenge? Morong Yu shrugged. What's there to be afraid of? They don't know who I am. Of course, even if they know who I am, there will only be one more sect chasing after me. It's not a big deal. You're very optimistic. Qi Yang shook his head. You really plan to bid for this immortal ascension pill? Morong Yu shook his head and said, only a ghost would want it. I'm only in the revolving reflection stage. With so many enemies, it's still a problem whether I can cultivate to the transformation stage. Moreover, I don't have much money. Qi Yang was shocked. Morong Yu said indifferently, I can't see those so-called big sections. I'm just making them bleed. Qi Yang was speechless. Wu Dong was also speechless. If other people found out about Morong Yu's plan, would they vomit blood in anger? In fact, just like Morong Yu, when the price rose from a few thousand to 900 billion, he became silent and no longer bid. This fellow was not stupid. If he forced the other party to give up, then in the end, Morong Yu would only be asking for trouble and eat this immortal ascension pill. Chapter 117. Zhuang Ningguang carefully put the immortal ascension pill in his storage ring. After a round of fighting, Zhuang Ningguang finally won the immortal ascension pill with a high price of 1 trillion recovery pills. 1 trillion recovery pills was equivalent to 1 trillion recovery pills. Although the immortal ascension pill was precious, it was worth at most 500 to 600 billion recovery pills. However, due to Morong Yu's interference, the price had increased by more than double. Even though he won the immortal ascension pill, Zhuang Ningguang was still furious. If he didn't know who was in the private room, he would have flipped out long ago. A recovery pill feast. After the immortal ascension pill, the auction house sold a few more rare recovery pills. However, these recovery pills were not as heaven-defying as the immortal ascension pill. Therefore, Yuanshu sect, Zhushenzong, and the other sects did not compete. Zhushenzong and Yuanshu sect did not compete, and neither did Morong Yu. However, once the two sects started bidding, Morong Yu would definitely make a move to fight for it. In the end, under Morong Yu's deliberate actions, the price of the items that the two sects were fighting over had at least doubled. They had to pay twice the market price to be able to buy them back. This made these two sects gnash their teeth in hatred. At this time, everyone knew that Morong Yu's target was these two sections. Therefore, when these two sects made a move, the other sects and individuals all stopped competing. This was because they knew that the final price of this item would be much higher than normal. Naturally, these two sects were gnashing their teeth in hatred, and Morong Yu felt quite relieved. However, the happiest person was not Morong Yu, but the auction house. If Morong Yu did not deliberately interfere, the auction house would not have been so successful today. Yan Xingji, who knew Morong Yu's identity, was interested in Morong Yu. Although this guy deliberately caused trouble, he always withdrew at the crucial moment. On the contrary, Zhuang Ningguang and Sun Pingxi, the two old men, had suffered a great loss. Immortal pill of the living dead. Yan Xingji's expression was solemn as he took the elixir from the attendant. Hiss! When they heard the name of this pill, the entire auction house instantly quieted down. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. One could even hear the thumping of everyone's hearts. Immortal pill of the living dead. This was definitely an immortal pill, a genuine immortal pill. According to legend, this immortal pill could only be refined by the immortals of the immortal world. Moreover, it was an extremely rare pill even in the immortal world. With just one, as long as your soul still exists, you can be resurrected and regain your peak strength. It was incomparably terrifying, a top-grade immortal pill. This immortal pill is a true immortal pill. It is something that my world auction house unintentionally obtained. There's only one in the world, and it's the surprise of this auction. Because it is an immortal elixir, Our world auction house is unable to estimate its value. In the end, we have decided that the base price will be 100 first-grade spiritual veins. Anyone who wants it can bid, but each bid cannot be less than 1 first-grade spiritual vein. As he spoke, Yen Xingji's voice actually trembled. No one knew if it was because he saw the legendary immortal pill or because of the price. The base price was 100 and a spiritual vein. Although a first-grade spiritual vein was the lowest quality spiritual vein. Even a first-grade spiritual vein was equivalent to 1 trillion recovery pills. How many recovery pills were there in 1 trillion? 1 trillion. In other words, the starting price of this immortal pill of the living dead was equivalent to 1 trillion. Its value was truly immeasurable. The hall was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Even though the price was announced, no one in the crowd made a racket. They were all shocked. If this was really an immortal pill of the living dead, 100 first-grade spiritual veins would definitely be worth it. Yen Xingji, is this really an immortal pill? At this moment, someone suddenly asked. What exactly is an immortal pill? We have never seen it before. However, after being verified by the experienced powerhouses of our auction house, this immortal pill is definitely of a higher grade than any pill in the immortal world. It should be an immortal pill without a doubt. What if it's fake? Someone else asked. Our world auction house can't guarantee whether it's a real immortal pill or not. However, we obtained it from a ruin after narrowly escaping death. It was an immortal tomb. Although we can't guarantee it, it's definitely an immortal pill. If any of you have doubts, you can choose not to bid. The hall fell silent again. 101. At this moment, the first person called out a price. 102. 103. The person who started the bid seemed to have ignited his passion. Following that, the entire hall was filled with the sounds of bidders shouting their bids one after another. Inside the private room, Murong-Yu looked at the frenzied bidders with a face full of shock. He was shocked by the appearance of the immortal pill and the fact that they were actually using a spiritual vein as a currency. This really made Murong-Yu feel ashamed. In the Hichu Luoshu world, although there were many pills, there wasn't a single spiritual vein. Even in the immortal world, spiritual veins were extremely rare. However, these people were so crazy, as if they had an endless supply of spiritual veins. Of course, it was normal for these sects to have some spiritual veins. At this moment, Murong-Yu realized that in front of them, he was becoming more and more poor. Looking at the crazy bidders outside, Murong-Yu didn't call out a price this time. He didn't have the financial resources to compete. Moreover, there were too many people competing this time. Even if Murong-Yu didn't cause trouble, the price of this immortal pill wouldn't be low. Moreover, if Murong-Yu continued to cause trouble, he would be going against all the sects in the immortal world. Therefore, this time, he just quietly watched the people outside bidding. Old master, you seem to be interested in this immortal pill. Why aren't you bidding? Murong-Yu looked at Qi Yang and asked curiously. Life and death are up to fate. Although immortal pills are good, not everyone has the luck to consume them. Qi Yang said indifferently. Murong-Yu raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything else. He just looked at the crazy bidding outside. As long as one's soul still existed, they could be resurrected and regain their peak strength. This immortal pill was simply too heaven-defying. In the cruel immortal world, possessing this immortal pill meant that one had a second life. Murong-Yu suddenly asked, Old man, do you think this immortal pill can revive someone who's at the end of their lifespan? Qi Yang was startled, then shook his head and said with a bitter smile, Perhaps. No cultivator in the immortal world has ever consumed it, so I can't answer your question. It'd be strange if it could. In the Hichu Luoshu world, Hichu curled his lips and said disdainfully, When one's lifespan is exhausted, their soul will be completely withered and destroyed. Even with immortal pills, how can they be revived? Although immortal pills are good, They can't be stronger than the laws of heaven and earth. Hichu nodded. He had forgotten about the old monster Hichu. After following Zhao Yun for so many years, he was very knowledgeable. He was at the level of a living fossil. However, after hearing Hichu's words, Morong Yu thought of the fire stick and the breakthrough pill. So, he quickly asked, "What's the deal with the fire stick?" "I'll tell you when you get back," Hichu said calmly. Morong Yu was speechless. He could only withdraw his consciousness from the Hichu Luoshu world and continue to watch the bidding outside. At this time, the price of the immortal pill of the living dead had soared to 500 first-grade spiritual veins. At this time, there were only a few people who were willing to bid. The price of the immortal pill should be around 600 first-grade spiritual veins, Morong Yu thought to himself. Sure enough, when the price of the immortal pill of the living dead reached 600, there were only 2 or 3 people bidding. Finally, when one person raised the price to 600, there were no more bids. Who is this person? The immortal pill of the living dead wasn't won by one of the 10 great sects, Qi Yang said curiously. In this competition, the 10 great sects came aggressively, as if they were determined to win this immortal pill. But in the end, they were all defeated. The immortal pill of the living dead was won by a mysterious person. It wasn't won by someone from the 10 great sects? Who has such great financial resources? Could it be a large chamber of commerce or something? Morong Yu said somewhat. You should never underestimate anyone. The amount of wealth they have is something you can never imagine, Qi Yang explained. Morong Yu nodded and continued. I wonder what the 10 great sects' expressions are right now? Morong Yu had the urge to go to the 10 great sects' private rooms to see what was going on. At this time, the 10 great sects' expressions were very ugly. It was one thing for the immortal pill to be won by other competitors. The key was that it was won by a mysterious person. Which force in the cultivation world had such great financial resources? Was this a new force? While the 10 great sects felt embarrassed, they also felt an invisible threat. After winning the immortal pill of the living dead, the auction house drew a perfect end to the auction with a flying sword of the spirit weapon level. The auction was officially over. Because he was worried about the fire stick, Morong Yu said goodbye to Qi Yang and left the auction house as soon as the auction was over. However, near the entrance of the auction house, he met 2 acquaintances, Sun Pingxi and Zhuang Ningguang. Seeing these 2 people, Morong Yu took the initiative to greet them. He first laughed and then said, "Everyone, are you satisfied with the price of the items you won? If you have anything else to bid in the future, you can let me know. I will still support you." Ha ha. After he finished speaking, Morong Yu laughed heartily and swaggered off, looking extremely pleased with himself. Zhuang Ningguang and Sun Pingxi immediately reacted. It seemed that this guy was deliberately making trouble, making the items they bid more expensive by several times. Damn it! At the thought of wasting so many rejuvenation pills because of Morong Yu, the 2 great existences in the transformation stage almost vomited blood in anger. The 2 suzerains gritted their teeth and looked at Morong Yu's back. In their hearts, they had the urge to kill Morong Yu. After returning to his room in the backyard of the Bada Chamber of Commerce, Morong Yu casually set up a few restrictions in the room. Then, he couldn't wait to enter the Hichu Luoshu world. Chapter 118. As Morong Yu's strength gradually increased, the world inside the Hichu Luoshu grew bigger and bigger. However, Morong Yu was the master of the Hichu Luoshu. In the Hichu Luoshu world, he was the absolute ruler. Therefore, he only needed to think to know where Hichu was. Then, his figure flashed and he appeared around Hichu. When Morong Yu appeared, Hichu was holding the fire stick in a daze. Even when Morong Yu appeared, he did not notice. "Hichu, quickly tell me what's so special about this fire stick?" Morong Yu finally could not help but ask. The more strange Hichu's behavior was, the more he suspected that this fire stick was not simple. After all, Hichu was the weapon spirit of the Hichu Luoshu. Hichu Luoshu was such a mysterious thing. As its weapon spirit, Hichu's knowledge was not comparable to that of ordinary people. What fire stick? Hearing Murong Yu's words, Hichu glared at him with dissatisfaction. Then, Hichu continued, I've basically determined its origin, but I'm very puzzled now. What's its origin? You're always so mysterious. Hurry up and tell me clearly, Murong Yu said with dissatisfaction. Do you know the origin of your constitution, the chaotic celestial body? Hichu asked instead of answering. Murong Yu nodded. The chaotic celestial body is unique. It's the only constitution that can get close to the chaos and directly refine the power of the chaos. Murong Yu answered, but he waited for Hichu and continued, What does the chaotic celestial body have to do with this? It has a lot to do with it. If I'm not wrong, it's the tree of life that was born in the chaos. Murong Yu didn't understand, but he didn't say anything. He just looked at Hichu quietly, waiting for him to continue. Hichu pondered for a moment, as if he was organizing his words. After a long time, he spoke slowly. Hichu Luoshu was the #1 book in the world. No one knew when it appeared in this world, and no one knew who created it. Even Hichu didn't know. A long time after the He2 and the Book of Luo appeared in the world, a life was born from the He2 and the Book of Luo. This life form was Hichu Luoshu's artifact spirit, Hichu. However, when Hichu was just born, he didn't have much intelligence. He spent his days in a muddle-headed state. Only after a long period of time had passed did he gain intelligence. Then, after a long time, he finally became a high-level life form. Before he had much spiritual awareness, Hichu had almost seen this world gradually develop from the primordial chaos to the current world. At that time, Hichu had seen many things. Some of the things that only existed in legends, Hichu had seen them with his own eyes. However, because Hichu didn't have much consciousness at that time, even if he had seen them, he had almost no impression of them. However, Hichu had some impressions of some of the things he saw at that time, even now. Just like the Tree of Life. At the beginning of the world, the primordial chaos was just a piece of chaos. There was no life at all. After a long time of nurturing, a life was gradually born in the primordial chaos. The Tree of Life. In Hichu's impression, when he appeared, there were only a few existences in the whole world. And what left the deepest impression on him was the Tree of Life that communicated with the heaven and earth at this moment. Wait, you're saying that the Tree of Life is a life born in the primordial chaos? Was it the first life form in this world? Murong Yu interrupted Hichu's narration. Yes, there may have been other existences in the world at that time, but the Tree of Life was the only life form. In my vague impression, the Tree of Life was extremely large at that time, many times larger than the world of immortals. It communicated with the heaven and earth, with the firmament above its head, and took deep roots in the earth. After a long period of development, the Tree of Life grew even more luxuriant. One day, a leaf fell from the Tree of Life. This leaf contained the essence of the Tree of Life. Not long after it fell to the ground, it slowly developed into a life form. This was the second life form. What kind of life form is this? Murong Yu's interest was piqued. Hichu's narration was like a story that attracted Murong Yu's attention. I've forgotten. Hichu shook his head. Murong Yu looked at Hichu speechlessly. However, I can tell you that all life forms in this world evolved from the Tree of Life. That's impossible, right? Murong Yu was stunned. You're saying that we're all part of the Tree of Life? Yes, part of the Tree of Life. To be more precise, it's the chaos that gave birth to all life. After all, the Tree of Life was also born from the chaos. Alright, then keep talking about the Tree of Life. You say the Tree of Life communicates with the heaven and earth, but where is it now? I've never heard of this Tree of Life before. Hichu fell into deep thought and sank into his memories. The tree of life is the first life form born from the chaos. It lives as long as the heaven and earth. Apart from being impervious to fire and water and invulnerable to weapons, it also lives with the chaos. It's eternal, and no one in time can destroy it. Wait a moment, you say it's impervious to fire and water, invulnerable to weapons, and no one in time can destroy it. However, you say that the stick in your hand is the tree of life. Aren't you contradicting yourself? Murong Yu's eyes widened. Hichu shook his head. Listen to me first. The tree of life and the chaos are of the same branch. There's no power in the world that can harm or destroy it. However, one day the tree of life suddenly shattered. There was one person who shattered the tree of life with just one punch. With just one punch, the tree of life, which was countless times larger than the immortal world, was shattered. Not even a single leaf was left behind. Everything was reduced to dust. There was no power in the world that could harm the tree of life, but it was reduced to dust by a single punch. Murong Yu was confused. Hichu's words were contradictory. Was that a person? Murong Yu was speechless. At this time, Hichu revealed a look of shock and lingering fear. To be precise, that wasn't a person. Although it had the appearance of a person, it was very frightening. That aura permeated the world. Everything that came into contact with it was reduced to dust. He shattered the tree of life, and then what happened? What happened after that? Murong Yu was shocked and promptly asked. Then? There's no then. At that time, I lost consciousness after coming into contact with that aura. When I woke up again, the world had changed greatly. The tree of life had also become a legend. In fact, it wasn't even a legend, because later on, no one had heard of the tree of life. All right. Murong Yu speechlessly pointed at the fire stick and said, Since you said that the tree of life was completely destroyed, then this should be fake, right? That's what I find strange. However, their auras are too similar. Moreover, I have a way to verify whether it's the real tree of life or not. If it's really the tree of life, Murong Yu, you've struck gold. From then on, you'll be able to do whatever you want. Hichu said excitedly. Murong Yu only raised his eyebrows. He didn't even think about it. If he really obtained the tree of life, then his luck was too good. Is there any way to verify it? The tree of life is born from chaos. It's impervious to fire, water, and weapons. Naturally, the samadhi true fire can't affect it at all. Only the power of chaos can nourish it. If it's really the tree of life, maybe it can be reborn. You're saying that we should put it in the chaos spirit vein on the demon mountain and let it take root and germinate? Murong Yu said hesitantly. Hichu shook his head. There are too many variables if we put it there. If it's really the tree of life, once it grows, it will have nothing to do with you. What I mean is, let it grow in your dantian. Murong Yu jumped up and looked at Hichu with vigilance. How can I do that? This thing's origin is unknown. It's not good to put it in my dantian. If something happens and my dantian is destroyed, then won't I be crippled by it? Absolutely not. Think about it. If it's really the tree of life, then wouldn't you have struck gold? The tree of life can directly communicate with chaos. Who knows what great abilities it has? Hichu said innocently. Murong Yu only shook his head. What a joke. Who would put something of unknown origin in their dantian to grow? What's the difference between that and seeking death? Damn it, can you not be so wishy-washy? If you don't grow it, I won't help you in the future. Whatever breakthrough pill, you can settle it yourself. Hichu was furious and directly swore. Murong Yu's face darkened. He looked at Hichu coldly. Are you threatening me? Hichu was unmoved. He only looked at Murong Yu indifferently. Okay, I'll grow it. However, once I find something wrong, I'll throw it out. After confronting Hichu for a few breaths, Murong Yu was defeated. Hichu was his master. This guy was experienced and knowledgeable. Once he fell out with him, couldn't he continue to use Hichu Luoshu? Moreover, he still needed to rely on Hichu a lot in the future. Seriously, you don't care if I don't fall out with you? Hichu handed the branch of the Tree of World to Murong-yu. Murong-yu gritted his teeth and finally put the fire rod into his dantian. However, what surprised Murong-yu was that when the fire rod entered his dantian, Murong-yu vaguely felt that there was some kind of connection between him and the fire rod. Could it be that the fire rod is really a branch of the Tree of Life? Murong-yu thought. After the branch, which was as thick as an arm and about half a meter long, entered Murong-yu's dantian, Murong-yu felt that there seemed to be an inexplicable connection between him and the branch. Just as Murong-yu was wondering whether this branch was the branch of the Tree of Life, the inexplicable connection to China disappeared. In his dantian, the black branch was suspended in the void. Countless chaotic forces in his dantian directly enveloped it and began to nourish it. In addition to this branch, the 9 lotus seeds in Murong-yu's dantian became rounder and fuller. It seemed that they were about to take root and sprout. Chapter 119. Withdrawing his mind from the dantian, Murong-yu stared at Hichu and said, "How long will it take to verify its authenticity?" Hichu shook his head. "I'm not sure. As long as it continues to be nurtured, it should be enough. Now, follow me." As he spoke, Hichu's figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. Murong-yu's heart skipped a beat, and in the next moment, he also disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in another space. Here, a huge cauldron that he had never seen before appeared in front of him. It was a 3-legged cauldron about 10 meters tall and a few meters in size. The most special thing was that this cauldron actually emitted 2 completely different auras of extreme cold and extreme heat. Black and golden flames constantly flickered on the cauldron. It was very strange. Black flames and golden flames, 2 different kinds of flames, emitted an aura of extreme cold and extreme yang. What kind of flame is this? It actually has such a low temperature? Murong-yu couldn't help but shudder as he said. That kind of black flame was really too strange. The yin-yang cauldron was born with Hichu Luoshu. The 2 kinds of extreme yin and extreme yang flames can burn everything in the world. It's only below the flame of primal chaos. It's very terrifying. Yin-yang fire? Murong-yu couldn't help but exclaim. Hichu nodded. Don't think that the yin-yang cauldron is only burning with yin-yang fire. However, the space inside can nurture yin-yang fire. In other words, the yin-yang cauldron can produce endless yin-yang fire. It's really a must-have treasure for killing people. Murong-yu shook his head, but he didn't think so. Although these yin-yang fire are indeed strange, it's neither extreme nor extreme. However, it wasn't extreme cold or extreme heat either, so how could it burn down the world? Are you kidding? Murong-yu really didn't think so. Hichu also said that the yin-yang cauldron was born with Hichu Luoshu. It was Hichu's own property. Of course, he had to brag about it. Unexpectedly, he too looked at Murong-yu as if he was looking at an idiot. With a face full of disdain, he said, "You idiot! You're the master of the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo. The yin-yang cauldron is a divine item that was born with the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo. Naturally, it recognizes you as its master. Let me ask you, if even you, the master, can feel the extreme cold and extreme heat, then what about other people?" Murong-yu was startled. He had forgotten about it. Any magical treasure, no matter how powerful or terrifying it was, they could kill everyone in the world, but their power would never attack the master himself. Take the yin-yang cauldron for example. Even though Murong-yu was not strong enough and could feel the extreme cold and heat, it was only because he was too weak. Even if he jumped into the yin-yang cauldron, the yin-yang fire inside would not burn him. Of course, with Murong-yu's current strength, it was normal for him to feel discomfort. If it were someone else, as long as they took out the yin-yang cauldron, they could burn the world, regardless of whether they were immortals or gods. Murong Yu rubbed his hands and said with a smile, Hichu, since you have this thing for a long time, why didn't you take it out earlier? Otherwise, he wouldn't have ended up like a stray dog being hunted down. Looking at Murong Yu's appearance, he seemed to want to take the yin-yang cauldron out and kill everyone. Even a scene appeared in his mind. He had the Hichu Luoshu above his head, the yin-yang cauldron in his left hand, the great Vajra wheel print in his right hand, the troop formula under his feet, and a golden skeleton in front of him. He would kill everyone and the world would be invincible. Hichu sneered. The yin-yang cauldron has always been in the Hichu Luoshu world. You just didn't realize it. Murong Yu was stunned. He suddenly remembered that he had seen this yin-yang cauldron a long time ago. But at that time, he didn't know that the yin-yang cauldron was so sharp. There were too many treasures in the Hichu Luoshu world. Therefore, he didn't pay attention to this seemingly ordinary cauldron. Moreover, even if I tell you, with your current strength, you can't control the yin-yang cauldron. I estimated that with your strength, you should be able to barely control the yin-yang cauldron when you are in the spirit tranquil stage. Spirit tranquil stage? Murong Yu suddenly felt a little discouraged. He was now in the middle stage of the revolving reflection stage. After the revolving reflection stage was the fusion stage, then the heartbeat stage, and finally the spirit tranquil stage. There was a difference of 3 stages. Murong Yu looked at the yin-yang cauldron with a face full of reluctance. He gritted his teeth and said, I must ascend to the spirit tranquil stage as soon as possible. After gnashing his teeth and deciding to ascend to the spirit tranquil stage as soon as possible, Murong Yu reluctantly withdrew his gaze from the yin-yang cauldron. He looked at Hichu at the side. Since I can't control it now, why did you bring me here? Aren't you deliberately provoking me? Idiot! I didn't bring you here to control the yin-yang cauldron. The yin-yang fire of the yin-yang cauldron can burn the world. It has a terrifying power. However, the yin-yang fire is also suitable for refining pills. Refining pills? Hichu, you know how to refine pills? It's a pity that even if you know how to refine pills, you don't have the pill recipes or the various spirit herbs. Murong Yu said with some regret. Can you let me finish speaking first before you interrupt? Hichu glared at Murong Yu and said with dissatisfaction. Murong Yu smiled embarrassedly. All right, Master Hichu, please speak first. I won't interrupt you again. Hichu revealed a satisfied expression and said, The yin-yang cauldron can burn the world with the yin-yang fire. It is an absolute weapon against the enemy. However, killing the enemy is only one aspect of the yin-yang cauldron. The most important function of the yin-yang cauldron is to refine pills. This time, Murong Yu didn't interrupt Hichu's words and continued speaking. Not long after, he finally knew the function of the yin-yang cauldron. Refining pills. Although the yin-yang cauldron accompanied Hichu Luoshu, it was born with the ability to refine pills. Moreover, this kind of pill refining was different from ordinary pill refining. He didn't need any spirit herbs, nor did he need any pill recipes. He could refine pills. This was because the yin-yang cauldron had a very heaven-defying function. It could automatically analyze the ingredients of the pills. For example, if Murong Yu wanted to refine the breakthrough pill, he only needed to throw the pill into the yin-yang cauldron. Then, the yin-yang cauldron could automatically analyze the ingredients of the breakthrough pill and even restore the pill recipe. This function was very heaven-defying. Moreover, as long as the ingredients were analyzed and there was enough heaven and earth yuan qi, the yin-yang cauldron could quickly refine the exact same pill. Moreover, after the refined pill was modified by the yin-yang cauldron, the ingredients would be better and the effect would be better. This wasn't empty talk. Back then, Zhao Yun relied on the yin-yang cauldron to become almost invincible in the world. If Zhao Yun wasn't alone, he would have been besieged and killed. Otherwise, he would still be laughing at the world today. However, in the final battle, Zhao Yun had burned almost all of the He Tu and the Book of the Luo. But in the end, he still fell. I'm rich. Murong Yu couldn't help but exclaim. Then, he laughed out loud without caring about his image. Don't be happy too early. Although the Yin-Yang Cauldron doesn't use spiritual herbs and spiritual pills, it is convenient to refine pills. However, the prerequisite is that you have to get a sample of the pill you want to refine. Most importantly, you have to have enough spiritual veins. Hearing this, Murong Yu was stunned. The Yin-Yang Cauldron didn't need anything to refine pills. It only needed a sample of the pill and enough heaven and earth yuan qi. Murong Yu didn't even have the lowest grade of spiritual veins. If I want to be the richest and invincible in the world, I have to invest a lot of money. Alright, in order to be able to dominate the world in the future, I have to work hard. In addition to cultivating and making himself stronger, he had to get more spirit veins. Moreover, he had to get all kinds of rare pills. Only then could he be invincible in this world, and only then could he be the richest in the world. I wonder if the chaos spiritual vein can be used to refine pills? Murong Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. Of course it can. However, with your ability, it's basically impossible to subdue the chaos spiritual vein in the Demon Mountain. Hichu said lightly. Then I can only go to the cultivation world to find it. Murong Yu pondered for a moment. You can rob them directly. I'm afraid of being beaten to death. Murong Yu rolled his eyes. You can steal it. Murong Yu's eyes lit up. He laughed and said, That's a good idea. Get ready. Let's go and find out more information. Before he could finish speaking, Murong Yu had already disappeared from sight. He wanted the breakthrough pill and even the recovery pill. Now, he didn't need spiritual herbs or spiritual herbs. The only thing he needed was the spiritual vein. However, there weren't many spiritual veins in the first place. Moreover, those that could be found had already been taken by others. Since he couldn't rob the large sects, he might be able to find a way to take the spiritual veins of the smaller sections. After Murong Yu came out of the Hichu Luoshu world, Qi Yang had already returned. Murong Yu found a random excuse to ask Qi Yang about the various sects and spiritual veins in the cultivation world. After getting the answers he wanted, he bid Qi Yang farewell in satisfaction and wandered around Upper Azure Town alone. However, even though he seemed to be wandering around the streets, he had already memorized everything in Upper Azure City. He memorized all the shops of the various sects as well as the things they sold. He was going to do something big and then escape. The night was quiet. In the bustling Upper Azure Town, such a scene was extremely rare. It was probably because of the world auction that happened a few days ago. This auction was held once every 3 years. This time, heaven-defying pills like the Immortal Ascension Pill and the Immortal Pill of the Living Dead had appeared. The world auction made a lot of money. After the auction ended, the people who had come for the auction gradually dispersed. Upper Azure Town was even more deserted than usual. It was the middle of the night. Even the cultivators in the cultivation world had already gone to bed. Almost all the shops in the city were closed for the day. Swoosh! A figure flitted past the backyard of the Bada Chamber of Commerce like a shooting star and disappeared into the distant street. Not long after this figure left the backyard of the Bada Chamber of Commerce, a black figure crept into a corner near the Yuanshu Sec's shop in Upper Azure Town. The black figure's eyes glowed faintly as he looked at the Yuanshu Sec's shop from afar. The Yuanshu Sec's shop was already dark and closed for business. The people in the shop had all gone to the backyard to rest. There was no one on duty in the shop in the 3-story building. Chapter 120. That was to be expected. Setting aside the powerful formations that covered the shop from the inside out, no one could sneak in without triggering them. Even if someone were to quietly break the restrictions outside, they wouldn't be able to steal the goods inside. If someone could break the restrictions one after another, What was the point of having someone standing guard inside the shop? Moreover, this was Upper Azure. There would naturally be experts patrolling the city at night. Therefore, it wasn't just the Primal Void Sex shop that was like this, but other shops as well. Swoosh. The shadow observed for a long time in the shadows, as if it felt that there was no danger in the surroundings and that no one would discover it. With a sway of his body, he rose into the air and hovered above the 3-story building that was the Primal Void Sex shop. The black silhouette hovered above the 3rd floor and looked around. Then, he pulled out a scroll from his bosom. Hichu, it's up to you now. As it turned out, the shadow was Morong-yu. After saying those words, Morong-yu's hand shook and the river diagram opened. Then, he gently tossed the Hichu Luoshu away. In the air, the Hichu Luoshu suddenly swelled with the wind, and became several kilometers wide in the blink of an eye, shrouding the horizon. Then, the Hitu and the Luoshu began to descend slowly. In the end, it quietly enveloped the 3-story building. Rise! Swoosh! With a whoosh, the Hichu Luoshu that shrouded the sky suddenly vanished. The Primal Void Sex shop in Upper Azure was gone as well. The entire 3-story building had vanished into thin air. Only the foundation of an enormous building was exposed where the building had been. With a wave of his hand, Morong-yu sucked the Hitu and Luoshu, which had transformed back to the size of an ordinary scroll, into his palm. Then, with a sway of his body, he vanished on the spot. Swoosh! Morong-yu's figure appeared once again. This time, he was above the Void Sky Sex shop. Just like the Yuenshu sect, they first used the Hichu Luoshu to envelop the entire building, and then directly swallowed the building into the Hichu Luoshu. After 2 consecutive times, Morong-yu moved again and again. In the past few days, he had seen the big sects that had a grudge against him, or the sects that had a lot of stock in their stores, and swallowed them into the Hichu Luoshu world. With a whoosh, Morong-yu disappeared from above the Hidden Fairy Valley shop. However, the store of the Hidden Immortal Valley had already disappeared. Even the shops in the Hidden Fairy Valley were not spared. Of course, the Hidden Fairy Valley was Zhao Jiqing's sect and had nothing to do with Morong-yu. He still swallowed them without hesitation. In less than 4 hours, Morong-yu had already swallowed all the shops of the top 10 sects in the cultivation world into the Hichu Luoshu. In addition to the top 10 sects, there were many other shops. Whoosh! Morong-yu once again swallowed a more luxurious-looking shop into the Hichu Luoshu world. However, at this moment, a stream of light flew over from afar. Did I go to the wrong place? But I didn't. The person who came was a middle-aged man. This person landed on a familiar street and looked at the huge open space in front of him with a puzzled expression. Everything around him was very familiar, and it was no different from usual. However, the 3-story building that was supposed to be towering in front of him had disappeared. He used his divine sense to check it out. The courtyard behind the shop was still there, and the shop's staff were either sleeping or cultivating. Everything was intact, but their shop had disappeared without a trace. It had disappeared into thin air. Who is it? The middle-aged man immediately reacted. Their shop had been uprooted by the heat. At the same time, he also recalled the flash of light when he had just returned. It must be that person. The middle-aged man roared angrily, startling the entire Upper Azure town. Then, he soared into the sky and chased after the black figure. Catch the thief! A voice filled with anger spread throughout the entire Upper Azure town. The voice was filled with shock, anger, disbelief, and other emotions. For a moment, the peaceful Upper Azure town was awakened by this angry roar. Countless cultivators were awakened. While they were furious, they immediately extended their divine sense. In an instant, countless cultivators extended their divine sense. However, these people only extended their divine sense to the sky above Upper Azure town. They did not dare to casually extend their divine sense to other rooms. Not to mention that those rooms were more or less set up with restrictions. Even if there were no restrictions, no one dared to casually pry into other people's privacy. Otherwise, it would be easy to get yourself killed. That's strange. Upper Azure Town seems a little different. It's obviously different. It seems like something is missing, but I don't know what it is. Someone said in confusion. Our shop has disappeared without a trace. Oh my God, what's going on? Can someone tell me if I'm dreaming? Suddenly, a person, who was either from one of the top 10 sects or some other sects, discovered that his shop had disappeared into thin air and suddenly screamed. His scream instantly spread throughout the entire Upper Azure Town. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After hearing this voice, countless people's divine sense instantly swept through the entire Upper Azure Town. In this way, they finally realized what was missing in Upper Azure Town. The shop. Dozens of shops had disappeared into thin air overnight. They had disappeared without a trace. What the hell? Am I dreaming? Seeing this scene, the vast majority of people couldn't believe it was real. How did these shops disappear into thin air overnight? They disappeared without a trace and no one even noticed. Who could have such a remarkable ability? Who could have taken away so many shops in one night? Even a cultivator in the transformation stage would not have this ability. Even if he was an immortal, did he have this ability? For a moment, countless doubts filled the minds of everyone in Upper Azure Town. So many shops had disappeared without a trace in one night. It was too shocking, too shocking. Other than the World Auction House and the Bada Chamber of Commerce, none of the 10 great sects and the shops with the best business were spared. Everything was taken away. Someone said in shock. Which sect did this? Someone frowned and thought. The first thing they thought of was that it was a big sect. Absolutely no one would have thought that it was the work of just one person. However, even if it was the work of a big sect, it was still too shocking. To be able to take away all these things without alerting other cultivators, what kind of cultivation realm did the person from this sect have? Moreover, there were many people. Did the 10 great sects have so many experts? Many people in the crowd had already started to ponder. Meanwhile, the people who had lost their shops were already in a state of chaos. Some immediately reported the situation to their sects, while others had already started to search for the great thief. However, at this moment, the culprit, Murong Yu, was quietly hiding in his room in the backyard of the Bada Chamber of Commerce and sleeping soundly. Murong Yu did not suspect that someone had discovered that he was the great thief in the city. No one would believe him even if he told them about it. Moreover, even after being discovered for the last time, Murong Yu used his connections with Hichu Luoshu to return to his room directly. Upper Azure Town, City Lord Mansion, Main Hall. Countless furious owners gathered in the main hall. Each of them was filled with murderous intent, but they were also filled with anger and disbelief. With a flash, the City Lord of Upper Azure Town appeared in the main hall. Everyone, I have heard about what happened. Let's go to the scene and see who has such a big hand. Before he finished speaking, the City Lord disappeared from the spot with a teleportation. Seeing that the City Lord of Upper Azure Town had appeared, everyone could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Then, one by one, they followed the City Lord and flew into the distance. The first to arrive was the shop of the Hahuan sect, one of the 10 great sects. The City Lord hovered in the air. When he saw that there was only a foundation left, he could not help but be shocked. Then, his face darkened and he waved his hand. Suddenly, an image appeared before everyone's eyes. A masked man in black was hovering in the air above the shop. He seemed to have casually tossed down a scroll. The scroll quickly enlarged and enveloped the entire shop. Then, the shop and the huge scroll disappeared. The masked man stretched out his hand and retrieved the scroll. Then, he disappeared from the spot with a flash. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Even the City Lord was shocked. It's actually a person. One person took away the entire 3-story building without a sound. That's unbelievable. Someone in the crowd exclaimed in surprise. The city lord of Upper Azure Town, Pan Lu, looked gloomily at the foundation in front of him. A dangerous glint flashed in his eyes. Upper Azure Town was one of the largest cities in the cultivation world. It had developed from a small town countless years ago to a force that stood tall today and was becoming more and more prosperous. Why was that? Because Upper Azure Town could protect everyone in the city, especially the shops in Upper Azure Town. As long as they were in Upper Azure Town, no one would dare touch them. In the cultivation world, although Upper Azure Town was not as powerful as the 10 great sects, it was still a powerful force. How could a force that even the 10 great sects were afraid of be simple? Because of this, nothing much had happened in Upper Azure Town. It could even be said that the law and order here was very good. But today, someone had taken away the shops of the 10 great sects and the other sects, not even leaving behind a single piece of rubble. This was clearly a slap to Upper Azure Town's face. With a cold snort, Pan Li's figure flashed and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in the air above the Origin Void Sect's shop. Just like before, when Pan Lu used his divine ability, he only saw Morong Yu take away the Origin Void Sect's shop. Could it really be done by a single person? Pan Lu was shocked after his initial anger. Therefore, with a shocked heart, he kept teleporting. However, every time they saw Morong Yu taking away the store, it was always Morong Yu. When they looked through all the shops that had been taken away, they were finally convinced that everything was done by the masked man. One person, within a few hours, quietly took away all the shops of the major sections. Who is this person? What kind of strength does he have? When did such a person appear in the cultivation world? Chapter 121. Could he be an immortal? That Dharma treasure in his hand is an immortal weapon? Even if he's not an immortal, the Dharma treasure in his hand is definitely an immortal weapon. Moreover, it should be a high-grade one. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to steal so many shops without a sound. Did you see that? This person only used a few breaths of time to take away the shop. The entire Upper Azure Town was shocked. Then, the entire cultivation world was shocked. For a moment, the entire cultivation world was talking about this matter. The people involved, such as the Yuanshu sect and the Zhushenzong sect, were furious. When they heard the news, they immediately sent experts to Upper Azure Town to find the black-clothed man. While the people involved were furious, the forces that owned the shops secretly rejoiced. They all realized that the shops that had been robbed this time were all the ones with better business and bigger facade. However, they were not robbed because their businesses were not as good as those people's. In the main hall of the City Lord's mansion in Upper Azure Town, Pan Lu sat on the City Lord's seat with a gloomy face and a murderous aura around him. All the forces of the City Lord's mansion had been sent out to search the city for the black-clothed man that night. However, Pan Lu and the others knew that since that person dared to rob so many sex shops, he had probably left Upper Azure Town long ago. Even if he did not leave Upper Azure Town, he was definitely not afraid of the people in Upper Azure Town. In fact, it was still a question whether the people in Upper Azure Town had the ability to find the black-clothed man that night. Bastard! How dare he rob the shops of the major sects in Upper Azure Town? He's courting death. Pan Lu smashed the table next to him with a murderous aura. Now that something like this has happened in Upper Azure Town, who will come here to do business in the future? Pan Lu was furious. After this incident, the major sects were not the ones who suffered the most losses. After all, there were many survivors in their shop. However, it was only a one-time loss. However, after this incident, would the sects that were robbed continue to open shops in Upper Azure Town? Would the shops that were not robbed be evacuated to Upper Azure Town because they were worried that their shops would be robbed? Once the shops left Upper Azure Town, or rather, once the number of people in Upper Azure Town decreased, Upper Azure Town would be affected the most. After all, Upper Azure Town was also a power, and there were many people under it that needed to be taken care of. Their only source of income was the taxes collected from the various shops. If all of these shops were to be evacuated, Upper Qingqing would be in for a tragedy without the tax revenue. We must investigate this matter thoroughly. We must find that black-clothed man. Pan Lu gnashed his teeth. Upper Azure Town was enraged, as were all the major sections. As for the instigator, Morong Yu, he was leisurely sipping tea and discussing the Tao with old man Qi Yang. In fact, letting Morong Yu taste tea was simply a waste. How could this guy know how to taste tea? He was just chatting with Old Master Qi Yang. Old Master Qi Yang, it seems that your divine might is shocking. That night, that black-clothed man looted so many shops, but he didn't dare to touch the Bada Chamber of Commerce and the World Auction House. Hee. Perhaps he doesn't care about our Bada Chamber of Commerce's little business. Qi Yang said indifferently, seemingly inadvertently glancing at Morong Yu. Being glanced at by Qi Yang like that, Morong Yu suddenly felt a little scared. He laughed and continued, "If I were the black-clothed man, the first to make a move would be the Bada Chamber of Commerce. After all, the Bada Chamber of Commerce and the World Auction House are definitely the wealthiest. Especially that auction house. He made so much money from that auction. Actually, I think that robbing the auction house would be the most profitable." Qi Yang shook his head. "Since that's what you're thinking, why don't you rob the World Auction House?" Morong Yu's heart skipped a beat, but then he smiled awkwardly. "I don't have that kind of power." Morong Yu took a sip of tea, then vigorously chewed on the tea leaves. "Oh, that's right. Old man, I'm preparing to leave Upper Azure City." Qi Yang looked at Morong Yu with some surprise. "With your personality, you're leaving so soon? Aren't you going to watch the show?" Morong Yu quickly shook his head. "Do you believe that they'll be able to find the black-clothed man with their abilities? If the black-clothed man dares to do this, he must be confident. I think this matter will just be left unsettled." Qi Yang nodded. In fact, how could Pan Yu and the people from the other sects not think so? However, they couldn't do nothing, so they could only send out experts to comfort themselves. After bidding farewell to Qi Yang, Morong Yu rode on his spear and leisurely left Upper Azure Town. The attention of all the sects was attracted by the black-clothed man that night. Even Zushenzong and the people from the Yuanshu sect didn't have time to do anything to Morong Yu. While the sects were busy chasing after the black-clothed man, they didn't know that the black-clothed man had already left Upper Azure Town that night under their noses. After leaving Upper Azure Town, Morong Yu was at a loss. The cultivation world was so big, where should he go? His top priority was to find the spirit vein, but where could he find it? Did he really have to rob it? At this time, Morong Yu even felt a little regretful. If he had robbed the World Auction House that night, he would have gained a lot of spirit veins. However, he also knew that it was impossible to rob the World Auction House. There must be experts guarding it. The transaction volume that day was so huge. How could there not be experts guarding it? Moreover, the spirit vein of recovery pills had probably been moved away long ago. For a moment, Morong Yu didn't know where to go. Therefore, he was too lazy to think about it. With a thought, he entered the Hichu Luoshu world. Am I in the right place? As soon as he appeared, Morong Yu was shocked by the scene in front of him. He looked in front of him with a face full of surprise. Not far in front of him, dozens of people were angrily looking at Morong Yu, who had appeared out of thin air. Morong Yu looked in front of him as if he had seen a ghost. Since when were there other people in the Hichu Luoshu world? Could it be a magic treasure made by Hichu? Startled, Morong Yu's figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood. Yu Mengqing was very depressed. She was the precious daughter of the mystic Moon sect, one of the top 10 sects in the cultivation world. She was 28 years old and had a beautiful face. This time, she heard that the World Auction House was holding an auction in Upper Qingqing that was held once every 3 years. That day at the auction, she had also won a high-grade magic tool flying sword. At that time, she had spent a total of 30 million spirit recovery pills. She had invested almost all of her pocket money. If it weren't for someone opposing her at that time, she wouldn't have spent 3,000 spirit recovery pills to buy the water and fire attribute flying sword. After the auction that day, she left the auction house angrily. However, at the entrance of the auction house, she saw an extremely arrogant man. It was also after seeing that man that Yu Mengqing became more and more angry. This was because she knew that the man was the one who caused trouble at the auction, but he was also very rich. This guy must be a second-generation heir. At that time, Yu Mengqing wanted to teach that man a lesson. However, she didn't have the chance. Later, for a few days, she stayed in the Mystic Moon sex shop and didn't leave. Finally, after waking up one day, she found that she and the sex shop had appeared in an unfamiliar place. In addition to them, there were dozens of other people and dozens of buildings. It seemed that they were all shops of the major sections. In the beginning, Yu Mengqing and the others were very frightened and didn't know what had happened. However, in the end, they finally came to a conclusion. They and their shops had been taken away. A few days later, they wanted to leave this unfamiliar space. However, this space was very strange. It looked vast and boundless, but there was always something binding them and imprisoning them in a certain space. Just as they were frightened and uneasy, a figure appeared in front of them out of thin air. When she saw the person who appeared out of thin air, Yu Mengqing immediately recognized who that person was. It was that arrogant man. Seeing that this guy actually appeared here, Yu Mengqing couldn't help but feel a little happy. However, he soon discovered that after the man appeared, he revealed an expression as if he had seen a ghost, and then he disappeared again. With a flash, Murong Yu appeared beside Hichu. Then, he stared at Hichu and asked, "What's going on? Why are there so many people here?" Hichu looked at Murong Yu speechlessly. "These are all your masterpieces. Don't deny it. When you took away those shops, there were more or less people inside. Moreover, in one of the shops you even took away their guards." Murong Yu was stunned. After thinking carefully, it seemed to be true. However, this was not his original intention. His original intention was to take away these shops. His main purpose was, of course, the various stocks in the shop. As for their people, Murong Yu was not interested at all. However, things had already come to this. What do we do with these people? Murong Yu looked at Hichu and asked. Kill them or keep them in the Hichu Luoshu world. Hichu said indifferently. Kill them? Murong Yu frowned. There were dozens of people, and these people were just businessmen. They were not evil people at all. Murong Yu wanted to kill them? Wouldn't that be killing the innocent? He couldn't kill them. Murong Yu had killed many people. However, those were people who deserved to be killed. These were innocent people. He didn't want to kill more. He couldn't kill them, but he couldn't let them leave either. After all, this was the world of the Book of Massacre. If he let them leave, they would naturally expose the secret of the Hichu Luoshu. At that time, the entire cultivation world would become enemies with Murong Yu. After all, in the cultivation world, even storage rings were just inanimate spaces. There had never been a space where a living person could live. If the secret of the Hichu Luoshu was exposed, the cultivation world would definitely be in chaos. I can only imprison them in the Book of Massacre. Murong Yu thought for a moment. Then, his figure flashed and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Yu Mengqing and the others. Murong Yu's reappearance did not surprise anyone. Obviously, they all thought that Murong Yu was also kidnapped. Chapter 122. This was because Murong Yu's strength was too low. Even though the people present were just shop assistants, their cultivation levels were much higher than his. Of course, having a high cultivation level didn't necessarily mean one was strong. Morong-yu could take care of these people by himself. "Kid, come here." Just as Morong-yu appeared, a voice like an oriole's came. Morong-yu didn't care because he didn't expect the kid to be him. Yu Mengqing was a little angry. She took a step forward and looked at Morong-yu coldly. "Kid, are you deaf or blind? Didn't you hear me call you?" This time, Morong-yu finally heard it clearly. However, he looked at Yu Mengqing in shock, then pointed at his nose and said, "Are you calling me?" "Nonsense, of course I'm calling you. Come here." Yu Mengqing gnashed her teeth in hatred. She didn't know why she had the urge to beat Morong-yu up after seeing him. Morong-yu was shocked, but he felt a little funny. These people don't seem to know that they're the masters of this world. Immediately, Morong-yu walked over slowly and asked with a smile, "Miss, how can I help you?" He wanted to see what this woman wanted because he felt that this voice was a little familiar. "Quickly tell me your name, where you're from, the power behind you, and why you were kidnapped." Yu Mengqing looked at Morong-yu and said coldly. Morong-yu looked at Yu Mengqing in shock. "Morong-yu, rank 1 rogue cultivator. I don't know why I was kidnapped." "Morong-yu? This name sounds a little familiar. Where have I heard it?" Yu Mengqing frowned slightly and said to herself, "What? You're that Morong-yu who betrayed Zhushenzong and killed Zhushenzong and many experts of Yuan Su sect?" At this moment, a man suddenly exclaimed, "What? Are you that Morong-yu?" Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Then, they involuntarily took a few steps back. All of them looked at Morong-yu with vigilance. They were afraid that Morong-yu would go berserk and kill them all. Even Yu Mengqing's beautiful face turned pale as she leaped back. Morong-yu was speechless when he saw the shocked expressions on everyone's faces. This was the first time he had seen such a reaction from the crowd. He could not help but ask himself, "Am I really that scary?" "It's Morong-yu. I say, don't you still have something to ask this young miss? Why did you run so far away?" Morong-yu smiled as he looked at Yu Mengqing, who was far behind the crowd. Yu Mengqing's face instantly turned pale, and her little heart was beating wildly. She was scared out of her wit. "Oh my God! This person who looks like I want to beat him up is that demon who kills without blinking an eye? I treated him so badly just now. He won't hold a grudge and kill me in one go, right?" When she thought of this, Yu Mengqing felt a little regretful. In her days, she did not hear Morong-yu's words. Seeing everyone's reaction, Morong-yu's heart moved. He then looked at everyone and said, "I wonder if you know where this place is? Do you know where this place is?" Hearing this, everyone woke up from their fear of Morong-yu and asked. "It is said that this is an independent space. It was created by the black-clothed man himself. You don't know yet, right? All the shops here were taken by the mysterious black-clothed man overnight. Moreover, the next day, the black-clothed man fought a great battle with the various sects and people of Upper Azure City. That battle was really earth-shattering and soul-stirring. The various sects suffered countless casualties, and even the city lord of Upper Azure City was killed by the black-clothed man." "The city lord of Upper Azure City was killed?" Everyone turned pale with fright and looked at Morong-yu with astonishment. "That's right, that guy is really too heaven-defying. Fortunately, I was far away from Upper Azure City that day, but in the end I couldn't escape from his vicious hands. In the middle of the night, I met the black-clothed man and was kidnapped," Morong-yu said gloomily. Looking at his expression, it seemed that he was telling the truth. None of the people present thought that Morong-yu was just lying through his teeth. "Oh right, are there only a few of you here? I heard that the black-clothed man kidnapped many young and beautiful female cultivators that night. TSK, this guy not only kills people like flies, but he is also very lecherous. He must have cultivated some kind of cultivation method that harvests yin to nourish yang. You women should be careful. Who knows, the black-clothed man might appear later and pluck you." As he spoke, Murong Yu glanced at Yu Mengqing from the corner of his eyes. Sure enough, just as he expected, after hearing this, Yu Mengqing and the other female cultivators were all frightened and panicked. Murong Yu, you talk too much nonsense. You're courting death. At this moment, an angry roar came from afar. Then, a huge black hand shattered the sky and quickly grabbed at them from afar. Murong Yu's face was full of fear. He didn't have time to react at all. With a swoosh, he was taken away by the huge hand. It's that black-clothed man. Everyone was shocked and looked at each other in fear. What should we do? That black-clothed man is so cruel and heartless. I'm afraid we'll all be killed. The women were even more frightened, afraid that the black-clothed man would rape them and then kill them. Swoosh! At this moment, the void distorted and a figure appeared in front of everyone. Everyone was shocked and looked over, only to find that it was Murong Yu who had pulled him away. However, at this time, Murong Yu's clothes were torn, his hair was messy, his face was pale, his mouth was overflowing, and his spirit was weak. It was obvious that he had been beaten up by someone. "How are you?" everyone hurriedly asked. "I'm fine." Murong Yu shook his head and continued, "The black-clothed man just beat me up. However, he said that he wouldn't let us go in a short time. But he also asked me to tell you that he's not interested in you. Especially those few women. He said that he wouldn't even take a fancy to such beautiful women." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and the women were even more relieved. However, Yu Mengqing's face was full of anger. Although she wasn't a peerless beauty, she was still delicate and pretty. No matter how you looked at her, she was a beauty. That black-clothed man actually said that he wouldn't take a fancy to her. I'm so angry. Yu Mengqing was furious. However, the black-clothed man told me that I'm your leader for the time being, and you have to listen to my orders. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. When he spoke, Murong Yu had a proud look. Yu Mengqing looked at him and gritted her teeth. Everyone didn't have any objections. As long as they could save their lives, why would they care so much? The black-clothed man instructed me to sort out the things in these dozens of shops as soon as possible. Soon, he will come to take them. Who knows, maybe he'll let us go then. However, I must warn you in advance, don't try anything funny. As long as you're in this space, the black-clothed man will see your little tricks clearly. Thus, under the supervision of Murong Yu, everyone began to sort out the goods in the major shops. With the help of these dozens of people, Murong Yu basically didn't have to do anything. He just had to come and take them away in the end. It was much more convenient than him doing it alone. Many people make light work. Should we consider keeping these people here? In the distance, Murong Yu muttered to himself. The reason why he fabricated the black-clothed man's matter was that Murong Yu didn't want them to think that this place belonged to him. Even if he let them go in the future, they would only suspect the black-clothed man, and not him. In the Hichu Luoshu world, Murong Yu and Hichu were gathered together. As for the dozens of people, they had been driven aside by Murong Yu to work. At this time, Murong Yu was feeling the benefits of many people making light work. Under the efforts of these people, all the things in the dozens of shops had been sorted out in a few days. Without these people, I'm afraid that Murong Yu wouldn't have had time to sort out these things. For a long time, Murong Yu felt that the Hichu Luoshu world was too monotonous. There were no other life forms. Only Murong Yu and Hichu came and went. It was really lonely. After seeing the power of many people, Murong Yu suddenly had a thought. He immediately drove these people to start building a variety of buildings in the Hichu Luoshu world. These people were all cultivators. Furthermore, their strength was not weak. Under Murong Yu's command, buildings rose from the ground one after another. Not long after, in the vast and boundless world of Hitu and Luoshu, a building finally appeared. In any case, it seemed like a world where people lived. In the process, Murong Yu often used the excuse of discussing something with the black-clothed man to leave the sight of everyone. In fact, most of the time, he was in the outside world. In the process, as long as Morong Yu passed by in the wild, he began to grab any life forms he saw and threw them into the Hichu Luoshu world. Flying in the sky, running on the ground, swimming in the water. With the passage of time, there were more and more kinds of life forms. The Hichu Luoshu world was becoming more and more like the outside world. On this day, Morong Yu and Hichu were sorting out the magic weapons and pills that they had robbed from the dozens of sex shop. After sorting it out, except for the spirit grasses, spirit medicines and various refining materials that Morong Yu didn't need, just the spirit returning pills alone had reached tens of trillions. 1 trillion was 1 trillion, and tens of trillions was equivalent to tens of trillions of spirit returning pills. This was a huge amount of wealth. It was equivalent to each shop having about 1 trillion spirit returning pills. These shops really have amazing financial resources. Morong Yu sighed. What he didn't know was that the shops that he had plundered were the dozens of shops with the best business in Upper Qincheng. Moreover, Upper Qincheng was a huge city in the cultivation world. The flow of people was very large. The business of these shops made hundreds of millions of dollars every day. If it weren't for the fact that the sects in these shops would send people to collect spirit returning pills and so on from time to time, the shops basically didn't have any stock. Otherwise, how could there only be tens of trillions of pills? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.